Salt Lake City, Utah. Welcome to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show, and for the 10th and final time over these past 2 weeks, it is his guy, Zakariah, holding it down. OC coming back sometime this weekend from his 2-week cruise. I believe he was about 30 deep out there somewhere in Europe, enjoying himself. Hopefully, I have done somewhat of a decent job of holding it down for him. I will always, of course, do the Zakariah Hour every Wednesday from 1 to 2. But right now you got me from 11 to 2, and I am live and local. Well, somewhat local, not in Salt Lake, but in Midvale. I'm over here at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. Come on down, the Road Homes Mediathon. There's a bunch of radio stations out here, a lot of people helping to give back to the less fortunate, and we always encourage your support. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do that. You can call in and ask, 801-819-7300. You can always go online, theroadhome.org/donate. You can also just come in person, like I said, where I'm at, the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale. And this hour, our sincerest thanks to the Huntsman Family Foundation for their incredibly generous dollar-for-dollar match up to $1 million. $1 million. The Huntsman family is going to match. Our thanks to Christina Huntsman-Derman, the Huntsman Family Foundation, and board member, The Road Home. So there you have it. Give on back. It's that time of year to appreciate your friends and your family and the roof over your head, and also to give back to the people that do not have those things as easily accessible as you do. So we got an action-packed show for you today, all 3 hours to get you into your weekend. We got Matt Mayoko coming up in about an hour. We will talk with Tyson Ewing, voice of Utah women's basketball, at the bottom of this hour. But right now, let's get to the opening segment. And the opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you by Alvy Armani. If you're having hair issues, gentlemen or ladies, maybe it's just thinning more than you'd like, let Alvy Armani help you out. Find them online at alvyarmani.com and tell them that ESPN 792.1 FM sent you. So we got a couple of polls up, as it'll probably, well, I guess I'll be on next Wednesday. I don't know exactly what OC's schedule is for the rest of the new year, but sort of an end of the year sort of show, end of the week, end of the 2 weeks of me being out here in Utah. And so what I want to know is, going into this weekend, what are you more interested in watching this weekend as the NFL does its best Debo impersonation? And if you don't know the Debo reference, kids, go look up the movie Friday with Chris Tucker and Ice Cube. They did like 7 after that were not as good and did not have Chris Tucker in it. Chris Tucker might have went religious, or he just didn't like the message that the first Friday gave out, but he was absolutely hilarious in it. And there was a character named Debo. He's been in other stuff, but a very scary guy that everybody tucked their chain and hid their jewelry and all that stuff when he came around, because he was the big bad wolf, essentially, of the hood. And so the NFL is doing its best Debo impersonation. It successfully did it last year to the NBA. Remember, a lot of people say, the NBA season doesn't start until Christmas, and Christmas used to be known for the NBA. They would have a triple header. If it was KD leaving OKC for the Warriors, they would have the Thunder versus the Warriors. If it was KD leaving the Warriors for the Brooklyn Nets, they would have the Nets and the Warriors. If it was LeBron leaving the Heat to go to the Cavs, you get what I'm saying. They would have matchup games. In this instance, I think they did it opening night for Klay Thompson leaving the Warriors for the Mavs. They had Warriors-Mavs, but you get my point. They try to put the best and the brightest stars out there on Christmas. And the NFL last year basically did the Debo and snatched the NBA's chain. They said, yeah, I know. You think this is your day, but you know what? I think we're going to take it and make even more money than we already make. And needless to say, their ratings were absolutely through the roof. Well, now, and this is football on football crime, which is pretty surprising. It's one thing for the NFL to snatch the NBA's proverbial chain, if you will, and take their ratings on Christmas Day. But now the NFL is coming after college football's chain, as college football will have one of their 4 playoff games tonight, and I'll get into all that stuff. We'll be talking about that throughout the show. But they're going to have 3 tomorrow. And the NFL said, well, you know what? We'll have 2 games too. How does the Ravens and Steelers sound? And how does, the back-to-back defending champions, Patrick Mahomes, and the up-and-coming star, second overall pick, C.J. Stroud in the Texans sound? So it's going to be a multi-TV day for sports lunatics. Now, you can go to a sports bar, which is what most people do. I will be back in the friendly confines of the Bay Area. And since I've been doing sports broadcasting for about a decade, I've had upwards of 4. I can have 5 or 6 screens if I pull up my laptop and my iPad as well. But for the most part, I have 2 screens. That's all I'll really need. You don't really need that many more unless it's one of those crazy days where there's so many games on. When the NFL's on, I can usually get away with whatever my favorite game is that I want to watch, either the morning game or the afternoon game. And then the other TV, I'll just put it on the red zone so I know when there's every score. So I usually only need about 2, and I only need 2 tomorrow and Sunday. But you're going to need at least 2 because, like I said, the NFL is coming for college football stuff. And I'm a little bit surprised because the NCAA is essentially a pipeline for the NFL. Sort of the AAA for baseball or the G League for basketball. So you would think that they wouldn't want to cut into their ratings, but again, NFL, long hair, don't care, Clay Matthews, in the words of Lil Wayne. They just don't care who's in their way. If you're in their way, if you're in the way of their ratings, if you're in the way of their money, they're coming for your chain like Debo did in Friday. So tomorrow, 11 a.m., Texans-Chiefs, 2:30 p.m., Steelers-Ravens. This is going to be a lot closer than when the NBA was competing with them. College football is number 2. Believe it or not, in the United States where baseball used to be king, believe it or not, and people would wear suits to baseball games, and it was national, it was considered the national pastime and all that stuff. Baseball's now fallen to, 4? And hockey and soccer might be coming for baseball stuff too. But right now, I'll probably have them at 4. But it's NFL 1, college football 2, basketball 3, baseball 4. So tonight, college football will only be competing with the NBA, and I'm assuming college football's and actually I don't think there's a huge NBA slate. I got to check that out. I got like 19 different schedules up on my computer, but I don't even think there's a huge NBA slate tonight. But Indiana and Notre Dame, and I've explained this on these airwaves before, but in case you're just tuning into me for the first time or you didn't happen to be listening for that 30-second blurb, Notre Dame is one of those teams that is pretty well followed and gets great ratings throughout the nation, and there's a simple reason for that. Back in the day, before you could watch anything at any time whenever you wanted to, it was very rare to be able to watch games, but Notre Dame had a deal with NBC, so their games were always on every Saturday. So if you're a young kid and there's no other game on, of course, and you're just watching the same team year after year, Saturday after Saturday, of course they're going to be popular. Much like the Bulls with Michael Jordan, the Cowboys, Notre Dame is one of those teams. So I expect that to get a huge draw as Indiana, number 10, Indiana goes to number 7, Notre Dame. But Saturday is the big day. And this is where I think it'll get interesting. It's not the playoffs for the NFL. And as much as they're king, this is the playoffs for college football. So obviously in the states where SMU, Penn State, Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, and Ohio State are, they're going to draw a huge rating, and probably the bordering states around it. And in the states of the teams who are going to play the winner of that, to do a little scouting in your fandom for the teams that have buys. But again, 11 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. for the NFL games, and then the college games are at noon, 4, and 8. So obviously the 8 o'clock game, which is 8, the NFL will be long over. The NFL will be over. Yeah. What did I say?
I was just correcting it for Mountain Time. I think.
I'm reading Eastern.
Zones.
Yeah.
10 a.m., 2 o'clock, and 6 p.m. Thankfully, we don't have to stay up for 1 until about 12 or 1 for the Ohio State game. But yeah,
I thought
10,
ESPN.
2, and 6.
Yeah, I thought ESPN corrected your time based on what your location was. So I was just reading straight off the thing.
Typically they do, but yeah, I can confirm that Mountain Time, we're a couple hours earlier than that, thankfully. 10, 2, and 6.
So does that mean that the Texans-Chiefs game is at 9 a.m. tomorrow, not 11? And the Steelers-Ravens game is at 12:30, not 2:30?
No, I think you got the right times for that one. Let me double check.
So they corrected it on the NFL, but didn't correct it on.
I suppose.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, so 11 a.m. Utah time, and then 10 a.m. for the college game, and then 2:30 p.m. for the Steelers-Ravens game, and if I'm correcting it, 2 p.m. for the Clemson-Texas game. Basically, they're basically well, it's just weird that ESPN corrected it on one and not the other. Yep. Anyway, so the bottom line is they're going to be competing, and it'll be very interesting to see what America does. I watch a lot of game shows. I'm a big game show guy. It got me through some tough times when I lost my dad, and I don't know. I love trivia. I love any kind of competition. I like crossword puzzles, Sudoku puzzles. I like board games. Anything that has a winner and a loser, I'm all about it. So I like game shows. And there's a game show called We Asked America, and it's basically they ask you a question, and then they give you the first letter, and then you have to guess like 7 of what the top results were for what they polled America. You have to guess it. Anyways, it's a fun game. And so this is going to be We Asked America, are you watching the NFL or are you watching college football? I hate when people say gun to my head because you shouldn't really joke like that, but feet to the fire, well, even that would hurt. Whatever the phrase is if I had to answer, I'm going to guess that the NFL is going to win out in these in these competing time slots that they're going to be facing, but it's going to be, first of all, way, way closer than when they went up against the NBA. But I think it'll just be close flat out in general. And I would not be shocked if one of the two games does better. But the NFL is just such king. I mean, football, what we're really learning is that football is king. But the NFL is the highest ranking of that. So I do expect it, despite the fact that it's not playoff games and it is for college football, I expect them to win the ratings battle. But again, would not be shocked if one of the games beat the NFL, and wouldn't be shocked. Well, actually, I'm expecting it to be very close. And again, a lot of that's going to be determined by the game script. And no, I'm not a conspiracy. I mean, sometimes I'm a conspiracy theorist, but not in this instance. I'm not saying the NFL is scripted or anything like that. I know wrestling is scripted. Sorry for any young kids that are on holiday vacation that are hearing that. But I don't think that the NFL is actually scripted, despite what a lot of people say, and they make jokes, and there's memes about the refs wearing red and yellow because they say the Chiefs get all the calls. But it will be sort of, I'm guessing, be determined on how the flow of the game goes. For instance, if the Clemson-Texas game let's say Texas goes up 28-0, right? And they're starting at 2, and the Steelers-Ravens game starts at 2:30. Then I could see the NFL dwarfing that game. But if that game is super close, and let's say the Steelers-Ravens game is lopsided one way or the other, then I could see college football winning. But I'm very intrigued by that. I know that the NFL is the bully. I know that they deboed the NBA. I'm surprised that they're also going to be deboing or maybe deboing college football. So we'll see how all that goes, and we'll find out. We'll get some early results on that from our poll. You can vote on the poll at ESPN 700, at ESPN 700. And, again, this is going to be my final day holding it down for OC. I will be doing my Zakariah Hour every Wednesday, but be sure to follow me to know the days and times that I'll be going on at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. I'll also be retweeting the polls. So that's the first poll question. What are you more interested in watching this weekend? Your options: the college football playoff first round, 2, NFL Saturday, 3, other sports. Let us know which ones. It doesn't have to be that the, football and basketball are king. Maybe you're, taking in some college hoops, or I know soccer is constantly with the 9,000 leagues that they have that I can't keep up with. Hockey, obviously. Got to go to that fantastic Utah Hockey Club the other night, so maybe it's that. So you could say other. Or, and James put this in, so I'm assuming that's the one that he voted for, it's Christmas movies for me. I know my brother still loves whatever that one is where the guy shoots his eye out with the BB gun.
Christmas Story?
Yeah, Christmas Story.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Exactly. My brother still loves that movie.
Classic.
He was born in 80. I was born in 83, so it was right in his wheelhouse, a little bit before my time. But, of course, I watched it with him, and I love that he still loves it. The lamp that's a leg and a lingerie or whatever it is.
Yeah, the leg lamp.
Yeah.
The I can't think of the line now, but the reward. He sings a song about it anyway.
Yeah.
And the musical's good too. Have you seen it on stage?
I have not.
The musical's pretty good. Anyway.
Yeah. And then, for me, my era was more Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I've made that joke throughout these 2 weeks that I've been Macaulay Culkin Home Alone because I'm staying at OC's house. So that was more mine. But, yeah, that's another Christmas movie. Some people say Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Be careful, kids. Don't watch that without parental advisory or whatever.
And I know a lot of women love the Hallmark movies, and the Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime have kind of made their own Hallmark style movies. So maybe
just don't watch
people that want to watch those.
Just don't watch the Chiefs one that they just put out.
Oh. I haven't seen that one.
At least if you're a Broncos fan or a fan of any other NFL team other than the Chiefs. Yeah, they put out a Kansas City Chiefs Hallmark Channel movie special, and it broke the record for the year.
Z-Rob, if you're listening,
probably throwing up in his mouth. Yeah, for sure.
Stay away from that one. Yeah, no, that's not my choice. I put it on there as, hey, maybe. I know sports talk radio, sports fans listen to the show, but maybe you're a little too burnt out at the end of this year, maybe on Christmas. And maybe this weekend you're going to mostly opt to watch Christmas movies, getting the holiday spirit there. But I don't know.
For sure.
As a fourth option in case that I'm guessing it'll be less than 3% that chooses that, but maybe there's some.
No, we'll see.
We'll see if we get surprised by that.
You got to unplug from sports at some point. So, and especially around the holiday time, because it's not like your in-laws or your immediate family or your friend.
Yeah,
not everybody wants to watch sports all the time. Yeah, so that's Christmas movies a little bit more for everybody.
That's the other part. It'd be interesting to see if you choose the Christmas movies part. Maybe comment as to whether it's your choice or not.
Yeah,
Christmas movies because my family won't let me watch sports. Maybe it's going to be a lot of people's choice there. We'll see.
Something like that. So, yeah, and then one of my favorite Christmas movies is Elf with
Elf's great too.
Will Ferrell. Francisco. I like that name. And then he lights up the whole elevator like a Christmas tree. I've been so tempted to do that so many times just because of that movie. I've never actually done it because, I'm 40 years old. So, you can't be doing dumb stuff like that. But anytime, it's not as fun if there's only 6 floors. Oh, yeah. But you get into like a big hotel and there's like 35. I'm just like, oh, Christmas tree. Francisco. Anyways, Francisco. I like that name. Anyways, Elf is good. So those are your options. What are you more interested in watching this weekend? College football playoff, NFL, other sports, or Christmas movies for me. And then me and James were pretty simpatico on the poll. That was mine. His was actually Christmas Day, which is now 4.5 days away, 5 days away. So I talked about how the NFL came for the NBA. So what are you more? The second poll, first one is for this weekend. The second one is for actually Christmas. What are you more interested in watching on Christmas? NBA's 5-game slate. I saw the newest commercial for the I don't know if it was Jingle Bells or whatever, but it's like coincided with jump shots and noises and stuff like that.
Those commercials are fun.
I love them. Yeah, they're like cartoons.
That out a couple years ago with the Jingle Bells 3-point shooting. Yeah, those are good.
And it's not actually even a cartoon. I think it's claymation is what you call that.
Love claymation.
Yeah. So what are you more interested in watching on Christmas? NBA's 5-game slate, the NFL doubleheader, again, other sports, or Christmas movies for me. So we'll see how you people, what the heck you mean you people, what you people vote on that. And we'll also see how it changes from this weekend specifically to the actual day of Christmas, because I think you're going to get a lot less with this poll and what you're going to see in the ratings once they come out. You're going to see a lot less for the NFL while it's competing with college football than you will when it's just competing against the NBA and other sports. So those are your polls for the day. Again, at ESPN 700 in the commercial break. I will retweet it at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. And then the other thing I wanted to do is just kind of go over the polls that we've put up over these 10 days. I'm very appreciative to Broadway Media, ESPN 700, for the opportunity, and OC for, sort of giving me the endorsement to hold it down for him while he's gone. But, I got here, and like I said, the cold punched me in the face when I got off the airplane, but I like the cold. I got some snow. I got to go to a Jazz game. I got to go to a Utah Hockey Club game, and it's just been nice soaking in the town. And other than the fact, okay, this Mediathon is great, and God bless the road home and everything that they're doing, and the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, which is where I'm at 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. Come on down, bring some coats, bring some jackets, some shoes, anything that you got that you can donate, blankets, all that good stuff for the people that are very much in need at this time. And I was doing crosstalk with Spence yesterday, and I believe I'll be doing it again, as I think he's coming back again today. And he was saying, a lot of these people, it's not that they're looking for a handout or that, that they're just trying to take. A lot of them are just trying to get a bridge from where they used to be when they were able to take care of themselves to where they are now, where they cannot, to getting back to that place. And they just need a bridge, and, you can help with that, just bringing any of that stuff on down. But I do have one complaint, James. You knew a butt was coming.
I was sensing the butt. Let's hear it.
Nothing but good words, except for the fact that I feel like their number one mission, obviously, is to help the needy during these holiday times and do goodwill for all the less fortunate. That's their number one goal. But I think that their second goal, and I could be wrong, is to make it so that I cannot fit on my plane seat on the ride home. Because
feeding you good there?
There is donuts. There are brownies. There's chocolate here. They sent me home with pulled pork yesterday. The soda's over here. I mean, chips over there. I can't even look at the chips over there. But they got all these sweets. I've got a donut in front of me. Now I got my eyes on this brownie. I don't even know what that other glazed thing is. They're trying to make me fat, James.
They're just testing your own self-discipline, man.
Candy canes. What it is. Candy canes. I'm going to have to turn my back to the whole room and do the show facing the tarp.
Didn't you say yesterday that Domino's brought in pizza too, or
everything, man?
That's
everything. Awesome. And I understand you put on holiday weight, but it's like, I want to sit comfortably on the plane. I'm not rich enough yet to fly first class, so I'm sitting in coach.
Did you have to buy a second seat? Is that what's going on here? You getting close there?
James, I will by the end of the day. I don't even know what that is, and it looks so good. I'm like salivating over here. Anyways, I'll try to focus on my water. There's no calories in water, right?
Yeah, no calories in water unless
Good.
you add some,
No, it's just water. I'm
packet
good.
that has calories.
No, I'm good. I'm gonna try to get bloated on the water, and then hopefully I won't have room for it. But I am gonna have to, in the very least, take that home. Maybe eat it on the plane, and then I won't swell up until after I get off of it. But anyways,
yeah, you'll be contained by the seat, by the armrests on the seat. There you go. That's the plan.
All right, so we will go over the polls from over the past couple of weeks as we go throughout the show. My guy, Matt Mayoko, who covers the 49ers better than anybody, I know they're below 10%. They might be below 5% to make the playoffs. Just what went wrong? Will they blow it up? We will do that in the noon hour, the PM portion of the program. And coming up at the bottom of this hour, we will talk with Tyson Ewing, voice of Utah women's basketball, the Shootin' Utes. They're in 8th place, but they've only lost they're 11-2 in 8th place. But that's because the conference seems to have had a good beginning to the season, and conference play really hasn't started. So
not many have played. So you probably got a lot of 1-0 and 2-0 teams in the Big 12. Running Utes or the Shootin' Utes,
Utes, yeah.
don't get started till tomorrow in conference play. So it's kind of 8th by default.
And we'll try to get that name off of the ground. We'll try to get that off the ground running. So I will bring that up as, we spoke with Lynn Roberts, and she said that she tried to get it started, but it just never took off. Well, damn it, if I do nothing else before the day that I die, James, Shootin' Utes will take off. And we're going to have to do that with the voice of the Shootin' Utes. So we'll do that at the bottom of the hour. And just a reminder again, go vote on the polls at ESPN 700 as we wrap up 10 days worth of polls. We will sort of look back at the other ones that we've done, and I'm going to be reminding you throughout the show, come on down in person to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. I'm in the tent if you want to come say hi, fending off sweets and trying to drink water, but you can come on in and say hi. Just say that Zakariah said that I could, because they might have like a guard at the tent, but you should be good to go. Come on in and say hi, drop some things off. Again, coats, mittens, whatever you have, hats, blankets, all that good stuff. The address is 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale, Utah. If you can't come down in person to drop stuff off and you want to know how you can help or where you can go to help, 801-819-7300. Again, 801-819-7300, and online www.theroadhome.org theroadhome.org/donate is where you can also find some information and a reminder that your donation will be tripled. So even if you give $1, it'll be $3. You give $5, it'll be $15, so on and so forth. Your donation will be tripled by matches from the Huntsman Family Foundation and Alta Bank. All right. Voice of the Shootin' Utes coming up at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Back up top, Maye slows it to Gianna. Neepkins left wing, steps back. The three's on the way. It's good! Gianna Neepkins buries it in Utah on a 15-2 run.
Oh, yeah. Neepkins clutch three in the Shooting Utes comeback win over Washington last Saturday in Seattle, courtesy of Ute Sports Radio Network. And the person on the call is my next guest, Tyson Ewing. He is the voice of Utah women's basketball, and hopefully the next time I have an interview with Tyson, I'll be saying voice of the Shootin' Utes women's basketball team. Tyson, I had a conversation with I want to ask you about that whole transition, but I had a conversation with longtime and now former Shootin' Utes coach Lynn Roberts, and she said that she tried to get that nickname off the and my program director and producer James and I were like, well, why didn't it take off? So now you have much more power than I could do. I can only do so much on these airwaves. You're the voice of the Shootin' Utes. We need you to carry this torch, Tyson.
Hey, you know what? I'll be the first to tell you, I listened to that interview. I heard you coin it. I even texted James afterwards and quoted #noted.
Yes, that's what
I haven't done it yet.
That's what I'm talking about. And look, you know, it's radio, and I'm sure you know, not the biggest paychecks that people might think. So if that thing takes off and we start seeing towels and shirts, just shoot me like 1% or 2%. You know what I mean? I don't even need what an agent would take. I don't need 10 or 15 or 20 or anything like that. Just give me 1% or 2%. That's all, TY.
we got to make sure that it's properly coined and given to the right person.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I have a bunch of questions for you, but I do want to start, and Lynn Roberts, Coach Roberts, I'm sure you probably know just and whatever interactions you've had with her, but she was fantastic on radio, such a good interview. But I do want to ask about sort of, I don't know if awkward's the word, sort of uncomfortable. Maybe it's just bad timing is probably the best way to phrase it. But the fact that, you know, obviously when you get an opportunity to go from college to what the kids are now calling it the WNBA, you're gonna jump at that opportunity, especially if it's in L.A., Tyson. But just the timing of that, the fact that she had done all the recruiting, and because she said it got very emotional when she had to deliver the news to her players. So just talk to me from your standpoint, covering the team. How sort of weird and awkward and unfortunate is that timing of when she got the job?
Well, I think she told you on the interview that day that that's kind of the nature of WNBA, right? Is that they play during the women's basketball off season and vice versa, right? So there is no good time if there is a hire to be made from the college ranks, and it has to be either you hire them from the college ranks, they have to leave their team, or you don't hire a college coach. And unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. As far as the awkwardness goes, kind of would be the right way to term that. I would honestly say that it hasn't really been that awkward, other than just there has obviously been a change. A different leader is now in place, but that leader has been somebody that has been with Lynn for several years, 12 years to be exact, and the transition seemed smooth. It seemed obvious from the Utah athletic standpoint. I feel that the players have really taken to this really well. In fact, I was on the road with them last week in Seattle. I was in the Cayman Islands with them when they beat Notre Dame, and you can just see how that transition of power has gone extremely smooth, how the players have been able to adapt to the new leadership. And it feels as though it's been so smooth so far. Obviously, losing a coach like Lynn Roberts is not great. But at the same time, like you said, it was an opportunity she couldn't jump too fast enough. If you get a call from the WNBA, especially like you said from Los Angeles, then you take that as quickly as you can. And, you know, she obviously did that. And I really feel like this is a win-win situation, a win for Lynn and a win for Utah in the sense that even though they did lose Lynn, that they can continue to go in the direction that they were heading in with a leader like Gavin. And, you know, so many great things have happened in the sense that Gavin, as soon as a change of power took place, within the living room of all three recruits when they took coming in next year.
Yeah.
Believe within the 24-hour, 48-hour period, was in their living room and saying, hey, still come to Utah. Nothing's going to change. And, you know, overall, I mean, a long-winded answer saying that this transition, I feel, has gone about as smooth as you could possibly imagine.
You're talking to Mr. Long-Winded, so you're never going to hear any complaints from me on that end. I do want to ask one more question on that, and just in terms of moving to Coach Peterson, I think one of the biggest ringing endorsements that I heard when interviewing Coach Roberts was that before she could even go to the higher-ups, the people above her, to tell them that Gavin should step in, that they were already saying it. So she didn't even have a chance to even say that he should be the one that replaced her. But in terms of seeing the players now on a day-to-day basis, obviously it's not going to be completely seamless, but how close to seamless has it been that you've seen from the players?
It has been extremely close to seamless. The one thing that I would say is a little bit different, and this is no harp on Lynn whatsoever, but Lynn, she's kind of I'll just use the term BA, right? And she expects perfection, and I'm not saying that Gavin doesn't, but Gavin kind of is a little bit more laid back in his approach. So I would say the biggest change has just been kind of Gavin's kind of just his approach to it, because of the way that he is. And again, that's no negative on either Lynn or on Gavin, but I mean, really, as far as a change go, I would honestly say that the only change I've seen is that just being in the practices that I've been in so far and the shoot-arounds I've been in, that it's a little bit more laid back, and that's about the only change that I can honestly speak to from what I've seen so far.
And so I look at the standings, and I'm going, the Utes, 8th in the Big 12 in the conference. Wait, what? Didn't they just beat Notre Dame? Me and James were talking about how they should have been ranked, and then you go to it, and it's because everybody else in the Big 12 is doing so well. Obviously, a transition, and we dealt with this with the Utah football team this past year and playing crazy teams like, Oklahoma State and, all these different teams. Just how good is this conference, Tyson?
Oh, my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel that it's very I would say half of the conference has a chance to win it. So that's 8 teams has a chance to win this conference. There's so many good teams. But as far as and as soon as you said this, I'm like, oh man, it's going to trigger something, and it has. And I'm going to speak to this because I feel like it's so important. To your point, why isn't this team ranked, right? And I actually. Last week, I'm a little bit of a nerd in the sense that I like to go through and kind of research a little bit. Well, I decided in all my glory to go through and see just how disrespected Utah was as far as rankings goes. This is not me being petty, right? I'm not trying to be petty here, but I was curious the fact that Utah, like you stated, they're 9-2, and they're 8th in the conference, but they're 9-2. They've beaten the number 3 ranked team in the country. They have 2 losses on their schedule, both to Power 4 teams. And I thought to myself, how is it that they would rank if you were to go back and look at all the history of these rankings? How disrespected are they?
Okay.
So I went through and I said, okay, does Utah have the highest winning percentage before they beat a top 5 ranked opponent and then continue to win their next however many games? Well, in this case, they were 5-2, which is a roughly 71% winning percentage, which is really, really solid. They then go ahead, beat the number 3 ranked team in the country, and have since won 3 straight. So I'm like, okay, how disrespected are they? And what I found is that this is the first team in women's basketball history, the first team in the history of the game, as far as a winning percentage above 70%, who then beat a top 5 ranked opponent and win their next 3 games to still be unranked. And I mean, I was again maybe a little petty, and this is the first time. And you're biased.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. No, but I understand. I like that, though. I like the research. And look, Tyson, if nothing else, I love people. Like, I don't know how much during the pandemic I felt like everybody watched it, but how much you watched of the Michael Jordan, whatever it was, 10-part doc. But my favorite part, like if you bring that doc up to me, the first thing that I think of was the restaurant in George Carl, where essentially Jordan made up this story that George Carl like snubbed him. I don't know if you watch Seinfeld, but like he snubbed him, and George Carl was like, I never did that. Basically, Jordan just completely made that up just so that he would play with an edge. So I love that you went fishing for an edge. Don't you apologize for that at all.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I
mean, with you. I completely agree. Completely
Yeah.
agree. But maybe there's a little pettiness, but I will say it's the first team since it was 2013-14 Washington to actually beat a top 5 opponent, then win their next 3 games and remain unranked. So
Got it.
It really goes to show me, at least in my opinion, they're disrespected, but at the end of the day, and Gavin will even speak to this, Lynn Roberts will speak to this, she probably even stated it. In fact, I know she stated it to you a couple weeks ago about how, Utah's always kind of been underrated. And honestly, that's okay, because that number in front really doesn't matter. It's how you perform on the floor. And so, that's why I'm just going to be like, maybe it's a little petty from my part, but at the end of the day, what we care about more than anything is results. And so if
for
we don't
sure.
get ranked, so be it. We'll fly under the radar. No big deal.
Yeah, I mean, the only time you can really get angry about that is if you end up getting a much more difficult draw in the tournament based on disrespect. Then I would be angry. Early on, no big deal. But again, we call that bulletin board material in this business. All right, well, it sounds like we got 2 marketing ploys that we can do now. We can be the Rodney Dangerfields of college women's basketball, okay? No respect. And then we got the shooting Utes. But I want to talk to you about the home court advantage and how much that's played a part. Obviously, the Utes are on a 4-game winning streak, but they're 7-0 at home. How much is there a reason why they're so much better at home?
Well, first and foremost, this is an obvious. They're super comfortable with the floor, with the backdrops, with obviously the rims. You obviously heard that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a crowd that continues to show up and show out. A couple years ago, Utah was undefeated at home. Alyssa Peely's first year. They lost a couple last year. But again, they're back on their winning ways, winning at home. And this is a team that, obviously they shoot, the shooting Utes. They shoot much better at the John M. Huntsman Center than they do on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my statistics that I've gathered, it shows a relatively large gap. Yes, they're a great three-point shooting team, but their three-point shooting at home is astronomically better than it is on the road. And so that obviously gives a little bit of an edge. But I would really just give it to the fans in the sense that the fans continue to show out. I think the marketing team has done an excellent job of getting promotions out there to where fans can affordably come and enjoy this brand of basketball. I feel obviously the winning has helped. But I would really, really give our edge to how great our fans have been more than anything. So that, in my roundabout way, is a quick, solid answer that our fans are the best in the nation, and we got to keep them coming out.
There you go. Yeah, and to anybody listening right now, I will always say this, and my friends echo it. It's always more fun going to college games than it is pro games. You don't have uppity, people in their 50s. You got crazy, hungry, full of energy, young fans in the stands. All right, I'll get you out of here on this. With any team, I like to look at the makeup, whether it's in the NBA and it's rookies or first or second year guys, or a very veteran lated team, the guys that have been playing for 10, 15, in LeBron's case, 20 years in the league. In college, obviously, you can't have that. But for me and for the listeners out there, what sort of ratio would you break this down in terms of youngsters versus veterans on this team? And again, with the caveat that in college, you can only be a 4 or 5 at the most if you redshirt veteran in college.
Unless you're camerizing, right? You get like 9, 10. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. No, that's true. He might come back for 10. Yeah.
Well, when you're going to look over this roster, the starting 5, if the transfer portal, that's one thing or another. But if there are no transfers, which that's not going to be the case right now, of the starting 5, 4 of them would be leaving next year. So you go over that starting roster. Ines Vieta, however you want to say it. She told me to say Vieta, so that's how I've been saying it for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So she's obviously our point guard, one that has been an excellent addition from where she was her sophomore year to her junior year. Massive increase, has been excellent at that point guard position. So she's a senior, and she'll be graduating at the end of the year. Kennedy McQueen, who's obviously a 5-year player now because of the COVID year. She has continually grown every single year to the tremendous player that she has now become. Jenna Johnson, who's become a staple at Utah, a player that can rebound, a player that can, more than anything, my favorite part about her game is that she can take a charge better than anybody else on the floor. It doesn't matter who they're playing against. She's the best at taking charges in the country. And then the transfer that came in, Maya Torre. So those starting 4 will not be returning. But you look at the returners that as far as the youth goes, Gianna Neepkins still has an extra year of eligibility, so we get her back next year. But then you go kind of deeper into the weeds. We're seeing an increased play from Reese Ross off the bench and Maddie Wilkie. So you got those two players that have been extremely helpful to the success of Utah's program since they entered. And then you look at the potential of going into next year. I mean, I know I'm kind of looking into the future with conference play still ahead, but the best recruiting class in Utah women's basketball history coming in next year, number 13 in the nation currently. So, again, that's kind of looking into the future. But if you kind of break this down from experienced to unexperienced, this is a very experienced roster that Utah has right now that could really help them later in the season when they get closer to March play. A team that has had all the players in the starting lineup outside of Kennedy McQueen make an NCAA tournament every single year. Kennedy didn't count in the sense that she was a freshman in the COVID year. Utah struggled that year, but there was no NCAA tournament that year anyway. So every player in the starting lineup right now has been to an NCAA tournament, excluding Maya Torre. But as far as everybody else goes, been to NCAA tournaments 3 straight years, so a lot of experience in that regard, and then just tremendous bench play with Reese Ross, Maddie Wilkie, who were obviously part of last year's team and experienced the postseason at Gonzaga. But then you add those freshmen, specifically one of my favorite freshmen, one of my favorite players on the entire roster, Brooke Walker, a freshman that's coming in. Doesn't play a lot of minutes right now, but has a beautiful jump shot. She's tenacious on the defensive end. I mean, I know, again, there goes my long-winded answer, but if I had to break it down a little bit, it's such a tremendous balance of youth as well as experience as they head into Big 12 play. Yes, it's a new conference. There are some familiar foes, but they're going to be able to use that experience that they've had over the last 3 years combined, and I think they're going to have just an excellent season with still a lot of games left to be played.
Tyson Ewing, voice of Utah women's basketball, which you can hear right here on ESPN 700. I've blown up the clock. I'm a little late to getting to break. Yes,
Sorry,
part of that is because you're a little long-winded like me, but the other part of it, it's a testament to how good of an interview you are. Believe me, I've had bad interviews that I'll cut off after 3 minutes. If it's a good interview, I'll let it go long. Are you on X or Twitter or whatever the kids are calling it? Because I don't have your handle in front of me.
Yep, Ty Ewing 2. Yep, at Ty
there you
Ewing
go.
2 for X.
At Ty Ewing 2. Go follow him. Keep up the good work, man. I love your work, and I'm looking forward. Again, we got to get this shooting Utes off the ground. So anytime you get a chance to sneak that in, make sure you do it.
I have I will mention that I do have my color analyst. My color analyst is listening as well, and so I'll make sure that she holds me accountable as much as possible. So there you go.
All right, sounds good. Enjoy the rest of the year, Tyson.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
There you go, Tyson Ewing. Good stuff from him. Yeah, man, shooting Utes. 8th place in the Big 12 is a little deceptive. Notre Dame, you can eat it. Okay? You bring your little top 5 rating to our squad? To our shooting Utes? You're getting shot down. Not literally, figuratively, of course. All right, coming up next, it's the 5th. I've given myself some leeway now. It's usually fun in the 40s, but it can be fun in the 40s and the 50s depending on how the clock goes. And so this time it'll be fun in the 50s. Some interesting stuff. The son of a WNBA player putting up stats like Tiger in the golf world? If Paul's listening out there, I guarantee you he'll stick throughout the break for that tease. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. definitely born to be wild. Sean O'Connell's a lot more wild than me, tell you that. I thought I was wild till I met him. I ain't getting in the ring with no animal on the other side and getting my face beat in like he did. Certainly not writing 2 books. And I don't even know if he has, but he strikes me as like a bungee jumper and skydiver.
Oh, and wild not having ketchup in your house too. We're not.
Don't get me
that wild, man.
Don't get me started on that. He didn't have A1 or ranch either, but I forgave that. The ketchup is unforgivable. I will never let him live that down as long as I'm alive and he's alive. He will hear about that. Oh man, don't get me started on that. The ketchup, unbelievable. That should get you deported. I know that. Well, that's a trigger word these days, but my point is, you should get your citizenship revoked. Thrown in jail, something, whatever is not controversial.
Jailable offense, yeah.
Finable. Okay, fine. We can do money. He should be fined. $100,000 fine.
Give back his $1 million he won in prize money for winning the PFL championship.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. And he should donate it to where I'm at right now, the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. As I said earlier, throughout this hour, it'll be tripled. So that'll make it $300,000 or $3 million from the Huntsman family. Well, it's up to $1 million, so he can donate whatever, $333,000. He can give me the other $666, and then that $333 will be matched up to $1 million. Shout out to the Huntsman Family Foundation and Foundation in Alta Bank is what I wanted to get to. All right, top of the hour, we're either going to have Matt Mayoko, who covers the Niners fantastically, and talk about their debacle of a season. Finally, the Super Bowl hangover hit them, and I forget the percentage chance of them making the NFL playoffs, but it's not big. Or we're going to have the greatest fullback to ever put on an NFL helmet in Lorenzo Neal. So we're going to have one of those 2 guys. I'm back and forth with them. We're trying to patch stuff together. I'm on remote. I got a crazy headset on from like the 80s. I got crazy candy and desserts and sodas and food and beef and everything in front of me. And we're just all doing it for a good cause, trying to give back to the less fortunate. And again, just the places that you can help out, you can just call to make it easy, and that person that answers the phone will be able to direct you in the right places. But 801-819-7300. Again, 801-819-7300. Online, theroadhome.org/donate. And then if you want to come see me in person, just knock on the tent, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. Again, as you appreciate your friends and your family and the roof over your head and the jacket on your back and the hoodie on your dome and the socks on your feet, just know that there are some people that need that, so come down and give back. All right, time to get to fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. Plead the fifth from the Dave Chappelle TV show. We call it Fun in the 40s, Fun in the 50s in this instance. And I got to get to this phenom because I don't know what you were doing, James, when you were 17 years old, but there's a guy named Blades Brown, which, by the way, just the name, the guy was destined to be famous. I mean, as much as I like Zakariah, and I'm sure you love your name, James, right? Both biblical names. They're fine names.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
they're basic compared to Blades.
Exactly. No one's going to go, James Peterson. That sounds like a guy that's going to take the world by storm. But if your name was Blades Peterson, James, you'd be like on stage right now with an electric guitar and some tattoos.
From now on, it is my name. No, no, Blades is a fantastic name. And you know he's going to be a phenom.
Of course,
with a name like Blades.
And you have the alliteration with the BB Blades Brown. Well, anyways, on top of his name being fantastic, he's only 17 years old, and he's already getting some comparisons in terms of his accomplishments to Tiger Woods. But he was also destined to be great because his mother, Rhonda Blades Brown, was a former number 1 overall pick in the WNBA. So the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. But he's a golf whiz. He's won 3 consecutive TSS-AA golf state championships at Brentwood Academy, and he left school to further his career. Always nice. I mean, oftentimes when you're when your children don't go to college, you get disheartened, you're a little worried. Well, not if they're going to go make millions and millions in the golf world. But the move paid off. In 2023, Brown became the youngest medalist in U.S. amateur history. He joined a historic group of golfers, including Tiger Woods and Bobby Clampett, as the only players to medal at a U.S. amateur and U.S. junior amateur competition. And if you're wondering, when can I see this guy? You don't have to hold your breath for too long, as he'll make his pro debut at the American Express Golf Tournament in La Quinta, California, coming up next month, less than a month from now, 3 weeks from now, January 13th of 2025. He used the sponsor exemption, so I had to give a shout out to him. We got more content, but we're at the top of the hour, and we have to make some room for our next guest. But James tells me that the new running backs coach for the Utes gave us a jam, something to play, and if that doesn't say fun in the 40s / fun in the 50s, I don't know what will. Again, we got the polls up. We're having fun. It's a relaxed, laid-back, feel-good Friday. We got 1 hour in the books. We got 2 more to go. We got some great guests for you. And, again, the poll's up there as we're approaching this weekend. And hopefully, if you're not already on vacation, your boss was kind enough to give you a half day. We're reaching the PM portion of the program, which means we're getting you into your weekend. But this weekend, who are you going to bother your in-laws, or what are you going to bother your in-laws with? Outside of the normal things that you bother them with. But if it's sports-wise, what are you going to be the most interested in watching this weekend? So specifically for tomorrow, we have the college football playoff. Again, there's 1 game tonight. There's 3 tomorrow. The CFP first round, or as the NFL tries to get their Debo on and not only take over your whole Sunday, boy, do significant others not be able to wait until football season is over so they can have their Sundays back. But are you interested? The NFL is going to have 2 games on Saturday competing directly with the college football playoff, or is it just other sports? Shooting Utes, some hockey, whatever it is, let us know. Comment on what that is. Or are you a Christmas movie person? We listed pretty much all of them off. Die Hard. I don't know how many R-rated Christmas movies there are, but there's Christmas, National Lampoons. We forgot to give that a shout-out with Chevy Chase. There's Elf. There's Home Alone. There's A Christmas Story. So is it Christmas movies for you? Do you unplug from the sports? And then for the actual day of Christmas, NBA's 5-game slate, which NBA used to own Christmas, or is it the NFL doubleheader? Or, again, other sports or Christmas movies for you. So vote on all of those. The station handle is at ESPN 700. I have retweeted them at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. 1 hour in the books. 2 more to go. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down for the final 2 hours of these 2 weeks that I have spent here in beautiful, gorgeous Salt Lake. Again, some people's complaint about this beautiful city might be the weather, but I happen to be an individual that likes it cold. So when that cold punched me in the face when I got out of the airport a couple of Sundays ago, I was happy as a clam. Bring on the cold. As I've said numerous times, you can add on layers, you can put on gloves, you can put on a beanie to cover up my ears that stick out. What you can't do when it's too hot is take your skin off. So I'm fine with the cold. And I even got a little snow action. Our lovely front desk lady back at the Broadway Media Station Studios, I'll never forget when I got there. I believe it was Monday, and I was smiling ear to ear because we got about, 4 or 5 inches of snow. And I was so happy. And she looked at me. You want to talk about the look of death, like the death stare? That's what I got from her. And she said, snow is the bane of my existence. And I was like, well, I'm sorry. It made me happy. And you're not bringing me down, Sarah. So anyways, it's been a fun 2 weeks. Like I said, got to go to the Delta Center for the first time and then for a second time. But the first time to see a hockey game there. And the first time to see the Jazz and the Suns play on Friday night. And it's just been a blast being out there. And for those of you that are big fans of OC, don't you worry. What is the schedule, James? Is he back on Monday?
He is back Monday, and then we'll do a best of on Christmas Eve because
Nice.
he wants to come in to work on Christmas Eve.
Not many.
And then off on Christmas, of course, and then we'll be back with live shows on Thursday and Friday.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. And then, look, if you're doing your last-minute Christmas shopping, best ofs are always fun, and I'm going to be doing that throughout the show. I do want to revisit the polls because, again, they go up for 24 hours. They're up for 24 hours. We usually put them up, right before the show or right when the show starts. So we only get to really see the results for the duration of the 3-hour show if we are responsible and smart enough to update them at the end of the show, which we don't always do, which is partly my fault and whatever. The point is there's another 16, 15 hours or whatever after that where people can vote. So maybe those results have changed a little bit. So I want to revisit all the polls that I've done over the past couple of weeks. I'm a big fan of polls. OC is a big fan of polls. Mainly what OC and I think are big fans of is you guys, you people participating in the show. We don't just talk into a microphone assuming that there's nobody out there listening. You guys are the ones listening, so we want to hear how you guys feel. And you can always do that on the Dish Pros text line, 877-353-0700. You can also call in at that number, 877-353-0700. We got a couple of new ones up as we're efforting either Matt Mayoko or Lo Neal. This is like the hardest time to pull the curtain back a little bit for the listeners doing this sports broadcasting job, and James being the program director and the producer. It's the hardest time probably is right around now to get guests because people are with their family and getting ready for Christmas and all that stuff. So we're efforting Matt Mayoko and Lorenzo Neal, the greatest of all time when it comes to the fullback position. And I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame one day. I know that they've been trying to make a movement happen to get him in there, and he certainly deserves it. And our show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job right the first time. And earlier, I encourage you, if you're out there and you're not always in your car listening to the radio, so if you want to continue to have entertainment for your listening pleasure, download the ESPN 700 app. It's very easy to find. I always call it sound off, James, and then you always correct me, and I still haven't got it into my brain yet. It's not sound off. What is it? The tab, the bottom left tab on the app. There's a button where you can make your voice be heard, and then if you record it, okay, cool. So download that, do all that good stuff. But it is a pleasure to be joined by the one, the only, Matt Mayoko. Last time we spoke, he said I could call him friend, so I will say he's my friend. But for you listening, nobody covers the 49ers better than this man, Matt Mayoko. I defy you to search the earth and find somebody that will give you better and more information on the San Francisco 49ers, which I know Salt Lake and Utah not having a professional NFL team. There are a lot of Niners fans out here, so you definitely want to be following him on Twitter or X or whatever the kids are calling it. Matt, thank you so much for joining me. Happy holidays and all that good jazz. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Zakariah. How's everything there?
Man, it's great. You know, I like it cold, so I am going back to the Bay today. But it is I've enjoyed the cold, and I even got a little snow, which in Berkeley and in San Francisco does not come often. You have to go to Tahoe to get that back where we're at. But let's talk some Niners football. Obviously, not the season that you had hoped for as a person covering it. I know you're supposed to be unbiased, and you're supposed to just cover the team objectively and all that stuff, but just not. They didn't live up to expectations, and I hate to go cliche on you, Matt, because you know I'm not that guy, but is this a scenario where the actual Super Bowl hangover finally caught up to him after making so many NFC Championship games over the past few years?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It is kind of the cliche, but I really think there is something to it, especially for this team, because over the past 3 seasons, they played 3 extra playoff games each year. And so 3 extra games, those are high leverage games. I think it takes a lot of emotional toll and physical toll on a team. And just seeing, being in that locker room after they lost the Super Bowl to Kansas City, you could sense it, that it was going to be a struggle to just start from square one and try to get back to where that season ended last year. So when you think about all the extra games they played, the injuries that have happened, the guys who had good seasons and cashed in via holdout or hold in, it's just kind of a lot of weird vibes around the team this year. So, I mean, honestly, being as close as I am to it, I don't think I'm surprised that this team took a significant step back this year. I think it was probably just asking too much for them to wind up back in the NFC Championship game like they had the 3 previous years.
We are speaking with Matt Mayoko. He is in season number 30 covering the Niners. If you're a Niners fan and you're listening to the sound of my voice and his voice, follow him on Twitter and X at Mayoko, MAIOCCONBCS on Twitter and X for all your Niners information. Matt, this is going to be a long-winded question, so I apologize in advance, and I feel like it's probably going to be something that you are covering throughout this offseason. But what a conundrum for me this team seems to be in. It is so talented, and I am not one that calls for Kyle Shanahan's job or John Lynch's job. I think they have done as good of a job as 2 humans could do at their occupation without actually winning the title. And, part of that is because sometimes, like many basketball famous Hall of Fame athletes ran into Michael Jordan. And Patty Mahomes might be the Michael Jordan of the NFL. But what exactly do they do? And I guess to try to make my question a little shorter, Matt, is do you expect a lot of changes with a team that's this good?
I don't. I think that when you look at where the team is as far as, the nucleus, the guys who have been the nucleus, it's Kittle, it's Warner, it's Nick Bosa. I don't think those guys are going anywhere. You got Brandon Ayuk coming off an injury. You got Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury. They did have a pretty good draft as far as rookies stepping in and making contributions. Now, there will be some changes. There will be a turnover of the roster just like there is every other team. But I think that where these guys are, the nucleus that I talked about, where they are in their careers, I think they're going to, by and large, run it back and try to, stay healthy. That's easier said than done. Deebo Samuel is a guy, though, that has dropped off considerably this season. Why that is, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint. There is a contract issue with him where they could move on from him if they wanted to. But I also know that Kyle Shanahan is a big proponent of, Deebo Samuel. And so he just recently was asked about him and said that he hasn't lost his step, that he feels he's the same player. It's just that everybody around on the offensive side of the ball isn't playing as well. So it's kind of it's been problematic for the defense in that, or from the offense in that way. So I think that there will be some tweaks. There are some areas where they do need to tighten it up and get more depth or get a starter here and there. And I'm thinking about the defensive line, the offensive line. But I think by and large, the idea is get healthy, take advantage of the added month that they'll have for an off season, and come back and try to do it again. I think as long as you have those players that I mentioned, Warner, Kittle, Bosa in particular, I don't think that you ever tear it down. You just try to build around those players and try to get back to where they were.
Yeah, at my best, Matty, I was a first-team All-League junior college basketball player. Now in my 40s, Matt, all I got is really pick-up hoop, and I kind of compare it to where you come with your buddies that you know are better than the other team, and you might lose a game, but it's not like you want to play with other players. You want to run it back. And if I'm the Niners organization from the top down, I'm looking at it like it didn't go well this year for various reasons, holdouts, injuries, all sorts of stuff. But I look at it and go, there's not many teams more talented than us. So do you feel that ownership feels the same way? Because, the owner, York, had, after going through so many changes, or not so many, but going through a rough time between Harbaugh and now with Shanahan, does ownership feel the same way that it sounds like you do, and definitely I do?
I think so. And if you're talking about specifically Lynch and Shanahan, I mean, this organization hasn't run this smoothly in a long, long time. I mean, we're probably going back to, Bill Walsh and John McVay. And even then, there's always a lot of turmoil behind the scenes too. But no, I think that I think all you'd have to look at is could you get somebody better in those spots, and you might be able to, but I'd say 95% chance you're not able to. And the minute I think the 49ers moved on from John Lynch as general manager or Kyle Shanahan as head coach, I think those guys would be out of work for like one day, and they would be highly coveted by just about every team in the NFL.
Yes. Believe me, Matt, as I try, because, 95% of my friends are Niners fans, as I try to talk them off the ledge, Matty, I'm like, you got to understand, you have the creme de la creme. So many organizations and teams would kill for your coaching and GM situation, so I'm completely with you on that. All right, I'll get you out of here on this. Brock Purdy, a guy who spent, I believe, his bye week, you can correct me if I'm wrong, going and plowing cornfields in Iowa at, I think, his not even his parents' farm, Matty, but his in-laws' parents' farm, like his in-laws' farm, his fiance or whatever it was at the time, plowing corn. So he strikes me as a guy that obviously is wanting to get paid, and I'd never want to go into anybody's pocketbooks or bank accounts. But do you think that he is going to sign a deal that is not only going to set him up for life, but will also be a little bit more flexible in terms of the Niners being able to retain the majority of their talent?
Well, I think that my guess would be that the way the deal will be structured, and it's going to be a big-time deal. It's going to be, my guess is $55-60 million per year. But I think it'll be structured in a way where the cap hit, year one and maybe year two wouldn't be as significant. So I kind of think that the way it'll be done is once the big money kicks in, that'll be kind of at the natural point in other guys' careers where it's time for them to move on.
Trent Williams, Yep.
Yeah, Trent Williams, and maybe Kittle, Warner, like that. But
gotcha.
No, I think they, just based on what other quarterbacks are making,
I know,
the rising cost of the salary cap.
Yep.
He's going to go from being, honestly, I think he's right now. Last time I checked, he was like the 86th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. So my guess is he'll go from number 86 to number 2 or 3. He's going to be up there, and
Yeah, I saw that heartwarming article about him hooking up his offensive line, which took up like the bulk of what he made this year. And he's had a roommate. He's had a roommate for the bulk of his career over there. And I mean, I'm sure he'll work with them. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's going to try to get every last penny, but it'll be very interesting to see. And Maddie, I'm sure you are not longing for the days of Tom Sula. Even though it's a down year, even though it's a down year this year, Maddie, it's still a fascinating team to cover and certainly very talented. And we'll see how the rest of the season goes and into the offseason. Look, Matt, I always appreciate your time, and I hope you have some wonderful holidays with Christmas coming up.
I appreciate that, Zakariah. Yeah, just remind your 49er buddies that if they really want to move on from Shanahan and Lynch, that Jim Tomsula and Trent Baalke will probably be available.
Or just take a look at the Jets. Thank you, Matty.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, safe travels, Zakariah.
There you go, Matt Mayoko. Fantastic stuff. Again, follow him on Twitter. If you are a Niners fan, which I think we did a poll, James, or should I call you Blaze? I think we did a poll, and it was I know it's big-time Denver country, and but what was the third team? It was Broncos, Niners.
Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah. Especially now with them just being a hop, skip, and a jump over in Vegas. But I know there's a lot of Niners fans out there. This guy covers them up and down. Like, I don't know, again, this is pulling the curtain back a little bit for the listeners, but in the industry of sports broadcasting, there is a pecking order when it comes time to do the press conferences for the coaches and the players. And all you need to know about Matt Mayoko is nobody crosses him in asking the first question. Everybody waits for Matt Mayoko to ask his question. Then, if you want to fight after that amongst the chum, you can do it, but don't you dare ask a question before Matt Mayoko. So he's on Twitter, at Mayoko Italiano, a Paisan, fellow Paisan, MAIOCCONBCS. Fantastic follow on Twitter. 30 years covering the Niners. He was just a young pup when he started because he ain't that old. So anyways, good stuff there. Yeah, I don't know what you do as a Niner. I have, again, 95% of my friends are Niners fans, and they are so frustrated. Some of them point to the holdout situations and that, it should be ran better from the top, sort of blaming the GM and John Lynch, who has done nothing but great work. Again, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft. And to go along with all the rest of the draft picks that John Lynch has done, I don't know that you can point to that. And some people point to Shanahan. And, again, I know. Nobody knows better than me because I hate the Patriots and Tom Brady. I'm not supposed to use that word, James. Nobody dislikes more immensely than me the Patriots and Tom Brady. And so I very vividly remember the Falcons being up 28-3. Matt Ryan, and the offensive coordinator was Kyle Shanahan, and he's got a lot to blame for not just running the damn ball. I believe if you go back and look, if they had just ran the ball every down, they would have won. Anyways, they blew a 28-3 lead. They've blown fourth-quarter leads, double-digit leads in the playoffs in the Super Bowl. I get it. But, again, they're so talented, and it's when you compare it, again, I brought up the Jets. You compare it to an organization like the Jets, you'd be, chomping at the bit to have an organization that's ran as well as the Niners. So I encourage Niners fans. I know it's frustrating. I believe they've been to 4 NFC championships and 2 Super Bowls over the last 5 years. I may be wrong, but they lost to the Eagles when Purdy got hurt. They lost to the Rams when Stafford got his first Super Bowl. And then they lost twice in the Super Bowl, both times to Mahomes. So that's at least 4 NFC championship games.
I think you're right on there. It's either 4-5 or 4-6. Either way, you're very fortunate times, even without a championship, for Niners fans right now. The other thing I'll mention, for all the criticism, and it's deserved criticism about Kyle Shanahan's play calling in fourth quarter and things like that in the biggest games, we're both old enough to remember when Andy Reid was not a very good clock management guy. Remember that? No, you know what, James? And now
that's a perfect example.
I mean, he's turned that around.
Well, no, but here's the thing, James, and this is where sports is so results oriented. And look, I fall victim to that too. I don't believe in participation trophies. Oh, my God, James. Now they've brought out a cake. What is that, young lady? What did you just put on the table? She can't hear me. Now there's like a cake with frosting and like chocolate bits on top of it. They're killing me out here. Anyways, that's a great example because it's not like Andy Reid all of a sudden became a great coach and then won Super Bowls. He was great with those Eagles teams. He was great with those teams with Alex Smith. Utah, great. Making the playoffs with the Chiefs. Yes, did Patrick Mahomes put him over the top? But it's not like he went from being a horrible coach to a great one. And how many NFC Championship games did he get to in Philly? And to the Super Bowl when Donovan McNabb was out of shape and was throwing up in the game-winning drive of the huddle when T.O. was playing on a broken leg. Great example. It's like, unless you win it all, then you're just considered garbage. When in reality, it just might be that you couldn't get over the hump and that you might down the line. And that's again, a great example.
And again, like specifically, it was people criticizing Andy Reid's clock management, not calling timeouts, maybe not making sure the guys are getting up to the line fast enough. When they're down by a couple of scores in the fourth quarter, that kind of stuff. Kyle Shanahan's similar situation. He's got to run the ball more than he throws when he's got a lead in the second half in the Super Bowl, things like that. It's like these are small enough things that they can be fixed, and you'll see that. And if they get the right quarterback, in the case of Andy Reid, maybe he didn't fix it very much, but they're just winning because they got the right quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I think at some point we might be talking about Kyle Shanahan in that same way.
Yeah, 100%. And that really is a fantastic example because now in the history of the NFL, everybody's going to look back at Andy Reid, who now has 3 Super Bowl titles, as one of the greatest coaches ever. But prior to him actually, crossing that threshold, he was looked at as a guy that choked and he was good enough to get you there, but then not great enough to get you over the hump and all that nonsense. And now nobody thinks about his Philly days when he was getting ripped into. So that's a great example. And who knows? Kyle might go on to win. He's a young guy. He might go on to win 3 or 4. So, again, I would preach to practice patience, to give you the 3 P's of alliteration right there. But nonetheless, Matt Mayoko is certainly busy, and I think you'd much rather cover an interesting team with a ton of talent than a horrible team where all the news is negative. All right, coming up at the bottom of the hour, there was a game last night. There will be some games this weekend at 12:45, usually fifth, fun in the 50s, fun in the 40s. But in this instance, anytime it's Friday and there's games coming up, we bring on our guy, Lee Sterling. He will break down the games that he likes this weekend. I will never forget. I got to go back and clip up that audio, James, and then get the big voice guy. That's going to be my assignment to myself over the holiday break. Is I'm going to go, first of all, I want an introduction for the Zakariah Hour where I have just OC singing all my praises when I'm not on air, because all he does when we're actually on air together is insult me. But he does say some good things about me sometimes. So I want to chop that up with the big voice guy for an introduction to my hour, which hopefully we get sponsored here soon. And then also, we need an introduction for Lee Sterling, our handicapper for Paramount Sports, for when he told me that some over-under, which was set at like 120, and it hit the over. So we'll have him doing that before the game started, and then maybe the final call of what that over-under was. So we'll do that at about 12:45. But bottom of the hour, the game last night, Chargers over the Broncos, much to Z-Rob's chagrin, made the playoff picture a little bit more interesting, and then games to look forward to as we go around the NFL. And then maybe I'll sneak in. Maybe we'll do the running backs coach song too, because I think probably at 1:45 we're going to do a crosstalk with Spence. So we have a whole bunch of stuff to go. It's halftime. I'm going to go into the locker room, get some Gatorade. James is going to give me a halftime speech. I don't know
some cake.
Yeah.
Like.
No, I'm trying to stay away from that, James. Trying to stay away from that, but I don't know if we're winning or losing. But regardless, if we're winning, we need to keep our foot on the gas. If we're losing, it's time to go out and get it. I'm going to get a halftime speech from James, and we got a whole bunch more stuff to get to right here at the halftime show. Hour and a half in the books, an hour and a half to go right here. The Sean O'Connell Show, Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700.
Fair catch, interference. Denver number 1. Chargers will attempt the fair catch kick.
So the free kick coming from the 47. It is teed up by the holder, J.K. Scott. In a kickoff formation with body sideline to sideline, Dicker backs up at the heart of the bolt at midfield. His heels at the 50. He takes a couple of side steps to his left. A left to right kick try with the ball spotted at the Denver 47. There is no snap. He's going to the teed up ball. He launches his right cleat into it. This boot with great distance. And Dicker drills in with zeros on the clock. He converts for 3, 21-13. The Denver lead at the break as Dicker does it with zeros on the board.
I'm going to say this very carefully. This is the 10th day of the 10 days that I'm filling in for Sean O'Connell. So I'm going to say this carefully. I do not want to get canned on the last day. I only have 90 more minutes to get through to not get fired for the wonderful Broadway media ESPN 700. But these are just facts. I'm not saying anything inappropriate. These are facts. That was Dicker, the kicker. Chargers, 57-yard free kick field goal at the end of the half. First such field goal in the NFL since, wait for it, 1976. I wasn't even a thought in my parents' brain in 1976, and I'm old. Chargers come back to beat the Broncos 34-27 last night on Thursday Night Football, courtesy of Westwood 1. John Sadak and Russ Tucker on the call. Never heard somebody more fired up. Well, that's probably not true. People have been fired up about field goals before, but that was a lot of energy for a field goal, James.
Yeah, I mean, they were excited about it. Even on the Amazon Prime broadcast, Herbie and Al Michaels got really excited about it too because it's such a rare thing. And for such a thing that you got so excited about, it was about the most generic kick you'd ever seen because the defense, the receiving team, weren't allowed to rush it. They weren't allowed to try to block it. That's why they call it a free kick there. So he just kicked it off the tee from 57 yards out. Looked like it would have been good from 70 out.
Okay, James, I'm going to put you on the spot, and this is a flag on me. Only a 5-yard penalty, not a big-time penalty, but it is a 5-yard flag on me. Yep, that's right, 5-yard flag on me for not talking to you about this in the commercial break. But at the risk of boring the listeners, so do your best to describe this in a way that's not like a teacher that puts you to sleep. But what is – because I remember Doug Flutie did this, right? Correct me if my memory serves. He did like a drop kick.
Yeah, the drop kick, the punt
okay.
for the extra point. Yeah.
So what exactly is the free kick, and why has it not been done since 1976?
I actually don't know why it hasn't been done.
It's just that they can't rush?
I think you only get that, and we could be wrong. Any of the listeners, go ahead and hit us up, 877.
Oh, I'm sure they will. They love to chime in when we're wrong, James. So yeah,
go ahead and correct us here. We're trying to we're talking about this on the spot here without having done much research.
Yep.
But I'm fairly certain that specific kind of free kick field goal is only available if there's a penalty. If there's a fair catch penalty or something, some kind of penalty on the punt with 0 seconds on the clock.
Got it.
And because it's a 15-yard penalty, it took it from being the ball would have been on the other side of midfield.
So it would have been more than 60. Yeah.
Versus just over the midfield line there. So
gotcha.
Anyway, that's why they elected to do the free kick instead of a Hail Mary.
Got it.
It was because you can't rush it. That's why they call it a free kick. You're just kicking it off a tee, and we see kickers in pregame when they don't have a rush against them, making them from like 60, 70 yards.
Yeah.
It's basically like one of those pregame kicks. So it's a smart move by Jim Harbaugh. Did you also hear in the postgame he told the reporters that's his favorite rule of all time? He's been waiting forever to be able to have that, to be able to do a free kick like that for a field goal. So he was really excited about that.
Well,
and
look,
prepared for it.
I love Jim Harbaugh, and I love anybody because as a person that has a lot of enthusiasm, our guy Spence Checketts, The Drive 2 to 6 right here on ESPN 700, often accuses me of having too much caffeine. What I try to tell him is my father from a young age called me a light switch, which means that I'm either on or I'm off. When I'm off, I'm totally shut down and I'm off. But when I'm on, this is just me. It is all natural. So I appreciate a guy like Jim Harbaugh. But when he says something like, I've waited my whole life to do this, he waits his whole life to do anything. That guy could go to like a stall at the Delta Center going to a Jazz game, and he'd come out of there going, I've been waiting my whole life to urinate in that stall. You know what I mean?
I've been thinking about the Delta Center bathrooms my whole life. Yeah, you're right. And listen, despite my Buckeyes fandom and him being a Michigan man, player and a coach, I've always liked Jim Harbaugh. It killed me that he went back to his alma mater to be the head coach, and it killed me again once they actually started beating the Buckeyes towards the end of his tenure there. But I loved him with the Niners. I loved him with Stanford. I was even more excited to have him back in the NFL because I thought that would mean Ryan Day and the Buckeyes would start winning again, but I guess this year they showed it's not time for that yet.
Well, since this is my last show filling in for Sean O'Connell on the Sean O'Connell Show, his guy Zakariah holding it down, I do have to ask you, and James, we went from trying to fill the show out as we prepare for it. Now we have too much stuff because we got to get to Lee Sterling here in a second. But I do want to ask you, as the resident Buckeye fan, I heard some craziness about Ryan Day as coaching for his job. Please tell me this is kind of similar to the Niners situation. Please tell me that's insane.
No, it's not insane.
Come on,
really?
Let me
tell you why.
Okay.
You look at his overall record. It may still be
incredible.
It may still be, and it certainly was up until this year, one of the greatest win percentages of all time, if not the greatest win percentage of all time. But when you're talking about against top 5 teams and playoff games and his rival, he's way under 500. The guy does not get it done in big games.
Okay. All right.
You look at it that way, it's like, great, you can beat Indiana every year, who's really good this year, but still. You can beat Rutgers, beat the doors off of Rutgers, but when it comes time to playing Michigan, when it comes time to playing Clemson in the playoff or whoever, Alabama, you get the doors blown off of you. So
all right.
I think that's why he's coaching for his job, and I don't disagree.
All right, I'm going to say 2 more things. Again, I can't believe we have more content than time. I thought we were going to have more time than content. I have to ask you one more question, because I will say this. In my personal opinion, which you can take with a grain of salt, I have them as either the second or the third best team in the country behind. If you want to put them behind Georgia, you can do it, or you could flip them and obviously behind Oregon. But have you seen instances like this with BYU coaches and Utah coaches where is it that serious of a rivalry? Obviously it's the holy war here, but we know Ohio State and Michigan is such a big deal. Is it just because of that rivalry? Because, again, the overall resume of Day is somebody that you would bring back every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been firings based off of from both sides, based off of their record against the rival in the game, and disregarding how good they were in other games. That certainly happened. In Ryan Day's case, it as unforgivable as it seems to lose 4 straight years to Michigan, it's more about that combined with once they play the best teams in the country, they always lose.
Yeah, I would just say that's okay. See, I can kind of relate to that, and again, nobody cares. But in terms of the Dolphins, because Tua and McDaniel, in terms of playing teams with winning percentages over 500, have been terrible. They've also been especially terrible in cold weather. So I can kind of relate to that. But I still think saying that Day is coaching for his job is thinking more with your heart than with your brain. All right, coming up next, we got to get to some games that are coming up this weekend for entertainment purposes only, or if you like to dabble in that sort of thing, then you can take this man's advice. He's the one, the only, Lee Sterling, who, again, I'm going to make a little intro and promo for. The next time I bring him on to interview him. I'm hoping that I will have the intro for him. We will get to all those games, and if you missed the interview earlier today, we had on the absolute voice and fantastic call that we had for the play-in of Tyson Ewing, voice of Utah women's basketball, and that Utes Insider was brought to you by Metro Elevator, Utah's vertical transportation experts. If you're in your car and you're about to get out, make sure you download the ESPN 700 app, and then you can listen to the whole show on demand, do whatever you got to do, however you want to consume it with your headphones or whatever else. And, of course, Craftwork is coming to the Union Center on 4/16. That is April next year, 4/16. Listen all week to The Drive with Spence Checketts, who's going to be joining me at about 1:45 for the handoff before he gets to The Drive from 2 to 6 for your chance to win tickets. The hot lunch that we did earlier, brought to you by Lemon Shark Poke, fresh fish and locally sourced vegetables to the highest quality. Go to lemonsharkpoke.com. Coming up next, let's get some advice. Let's be smarter about these games and what we're watching. What does Lee Sterling like? Handicapper for Paramount Sports. What is he like this weekend? You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah, hold it down right here. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I have said too much. On the other hand, I haven't said enough. That is me in the corner. Over here, I am live and in person at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. Come on down, say hello. More importantly, drop off some gloves, some mittens, some shoes, some coats, some blankets, all that good stuff. 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale, Utah. I will give you all the information that you will need. Just know that your donation will be tripled. So even if you only got $1, it'll be $3. With absolutely big thanks to the Huntsman Family Foundation and Creative Learning Academy, as we are helping out the less fortunate. At the top of the hour, the final hour of the program, the final hour of the week for this show. Of course, we still have Spence Checketts in the drive from 2 to 6, so don't you worry. Keep it locked. We got a whole bunch of stuff to get to, and also we'll have a guest. His name is Kevin Dana, who does play-by-play for the Warriors G League team, also hosts a Warriors show as they got blown out. Ugly game against the Grizzlies. So we'll get into that much, much more. Reset not only the polls that we put up today, but throughout the past 2 weeks at ESPN 700 on Twitter, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports is where I'm at. I have retweeted them. But right now, let's get smarter, and for entertainment purposes only, we will bring on Lee Sterling, handicapper for Paramount Sports. Lee, the next time I interview, it's going to be my own personal homework assignment to myself. I'm going to have an intro when you come on, when you told me that some over-under that was like 120, and you told me to take the over, and it hit. Okay. So we're going to have you telling me to do that, and then we're going to have the final call of that game where it actually hit. So, Lee, talk to me. The NFL is like Debo from Friday. I don't know if you're old enough to know that movie, but he was the big bully of the neighborhood, and he went and snatched people's chains and took their goods.
I remember.
Okay, so the NFL deboed the NBA last year because Christmas was supposed to be the NBA's. The NFL deboed it. Now they're trying to debo college football. But what do you like this weekend, Lee? And thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on. Let's start with a game here with my Miami Hurricanes. And this is going to be another game. Maybe you want to go double or nothing. They're playing Iowa State. Now, Miami's a 3.5-point favorite. So I'm looking at the matchups, and Cam Ward is going to play. Their top running back, Damian Martinez, a transfer from Oregon State. He's going to play also. Their offense scores like 40 points, it seems like, plus on everyone. Their defense can't stop a cold. Iowa State, I think, is going to have some success on offense, and their defense couldn't stop Arizona State. They made Cam Scatterboo look like, he was greatest running back of all time. Good, but maybe not that good. This might be close to that over that I was telling you about earlier in the season. The total's 55.5. I got Miami winning this game here 48-45. Let's go over 55.5. Wouldn't shock me if one of these teams hits 50 itself.
Okay, Lee, but what you gave me right there is 3, which would be a push. So if you had to take either Miami -3 or Iowa State +3, which one would you err on?
I mean, they who knows? Last team with the ball. I mean, they probably have a little bit better offense. Maybe I should have said 48-40.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, Iowa State, a Big 12 team. Obviously, the Utah Utes are familiar. All right, so what do you got? Arkansas, Texas Tech, no spread on this, and not because it's off the board. It's because it's a pick'em, Lee.
Yep. So here's the situation with Arkansas. 11 starters. That's half. One half their entire lineup of starters, not just, total players, is in the portal. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
These kids, looking to find a better situation. I think the program is fine. If you're starting, a lot of times stay where you are. Maybe you're looking for more money. They got agents now calling these kids, telling them, hey, I've seen your tape. I can get you this, get you that. Well, a lot of people don't realize this. 35% of all the kids that hit a portal never get another offer. So maybe not all these starters are in that situation, but I just think that this Texas Tech team can run the football. Texas Tech, they've got a kid, Zach Boyd. I think he's going to play at the next level. A lot of people don't realize who he is. Over 1,500 rushing yards this year. So Another high-scoring game, but I think Texas Tech's the right side, 41-31, Red Raiders.
Oh, okay, so that would be the over too, right?
Yep, over. Yep.
Okay. All right, and then an interesting game, certainly for Utah Utes fans, as these are now conference foes. Colorado, Deion Sanders, all the hoopla that goes along with that, with the rival of the Utes, BYU. What do you got in that game?
Yeah, so, I mean, as good as Colorado's been, their weakness is their offensive line. And I think the BYU front seven is going to be able to neutralize them. We've seen Heisman Trophy winners. How have they done after that? Well, 15-34 against the spread in their bowl game. So usually after such a big ceremony, usually it doesn't fare well the next game. And I think BYU going to win the turnover battle and the special teams battle. Wrong team favorite here. BYU straight up 31-21.
Okay, all right. Yep. So now we're getting into the playoff, and as you well know, it's been expanded to 12 teams, and you have Ohio State with our formidable and fantastic program director and producer, James. He is a Buckeye at heart. Ohio State. Some people think Day is coaching for his job. I think it's ludicrous, but they are 7-point favorites at home against Tennessee. What do you got there, Lee?
So I do think if they lose this game, I do think he's not going to make it to Monday. So where are they mentally? I just don't know. You lose to your rival again when you are much more talented. That's a problem. Their offensive line is a mess. Only 77 rushing yards versus Michigan. They're down 2 of the top 3 offensive linemen. Now, some people will see the weather and they'll say, hey, mid-20s should favor Ohio State, but it gets cold in East Tennessee. So, in fact, the difference right now is only 3 degrees different. So I don't think that's going to be a factor here. This front seven for Tennessee, I think, is top 5 in the country. They've already played at Georgia, so they're not going to be intimidated. We talked about where are they mentally. Teams that lose when they're laying more than 19 points in the regular season, the next game, 37-67 against the spread. Sorry, James. Wrong team favored. Tennessee, straight up 26-24. See you, Ryan Day.
Wow, I still got an hour in the program, Lee. I think I'm going to lose James. All right, what do you got, Texas? A lot of these opening games, and I don't know how much of this is because it's the first year where the higher seed is actually hosting the games on their home field, but another big spread, Texas minus 12 against Dabo Sweeney, Mr. I don't mess with the portal / I just got somebody from the portal. What do you make of this game, Lee?
He's got 2 guys, to be exact. So he's learning that you want to compete and you want to have a chance to win it all. You're going to have to do it. You got to play by what the new rules are. So I thought this line was going to come 8.5. Texas is good. I think you're going to see a ton of their players get drafted high over the next couple of years. But let's look at what they have on the field. They have not beaten a ranked team. Their offense, number 106 in red zone scoring percentage.
Wow.
134 teams. I think Quinn Ewers is hurt. I don't think he's 100% since he came back, and that's a problem. I would have probably gone to Arch Manning at this point here, but now I think they're at the point of no return. On the other side, Cade Klubnik, 33 touchdown passes, only 5 interceptions. In fact, number 3 in the country in touchdowns this year. And where does he hail from? Austin, Texas. He played for Power Austin. Westlake here. I think Texas is going to escape 20-16, but 12 points, way too many points. Grab all those gorgeous points.
All righty, and then I'm seeing no NFL for either Saturday or Sunday, but a free play, Notre Dame and Indiana.
Yep, tonight they want to get that game for free. All they need to do is go to the website, ParamountSports.com. Never done this before, but we won 9 straight Fridays. 9 straight Fridays. We are on a 21-6 run here in the month of December at Paramount Sports. How about this? Go to the website. Just my way of saying thank you for listening each and every week or going to the website. When you go to the website, it's only $27. This is the opening game of the college football playoff. When you go to ParamountSports.com, click Purchase Picks, first item. When you go to checkout, fill everything out. Just put in the box free, F-R-E-E. Going to give you the selection tonight for free. So hopefully I can put some jingle in your pocket and they win for you. And if that's the case, hopefully you come with me down the road for the rest of the football season. So check it out. Take advantage of that free offer. Code word free, ParamountSports.com, or call us here at the office, 800-400-9741. Start winning today.
Lee Sterling always brings the absolute fire. Go check it out. Such a great offer right there. Lee Sterling, handicapper for Paramount Sports. Again, go to ParamountSports.com. Use the checkout bonus code word, whatever you want to call it, free. That should be easy to remember. ParamountSports.com, 800-400-9741. Lee, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy the holidays.
You too, buddy. Take care. Be safe.
There you go. Lee Sterling. Fantastic stuff from him. Again, we got to get that good intro going. And, yeah, check out his stuff. Okay. Likes BYU. Does not like James' Buckeyes. That was tough to hear, and I'm not even a Buckeyes fan.
Yeah, that was rough, and it certainly has been my worst nightmare going into this CFP after the loss in the game. Is now they're going to follow it up with the home loss to Tennessee. That hurt me, Zakariah.
Yeah, that was rough.
We may not have him on again for a couple months just because of that. No, we're actually not going to. He's taking a break until Super Bowl, but that was planned beforehand. Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, I hear you. Well, I'll tell you what I'm definitely going to do for entertainment purposes only is. Again, he famously gave me the over-under. I forgot the two teams. I forgot the number, but I remember the number being astronomical, and they covered easy. So I think I'm going to like and Miami has an atrocious defense and a phenomenal offense, which I saw firsthand when college game day, Pat McAfee and ESPN and all the guys, Nick Saban all came to Berkeley for the first time. And I watched firsthand how bad Miami's defense is and how good their offense is. So I like the over-under in that Miami-Iowa State game. So I might take a flyer on that. We'll see. All right, coming up, final hour of the program. Again, I am live and in person right here at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. Come on down. Donate some things. Give back. Do good citizen move of the day. Come on and bring some clothes, socks, shoes, whatever. 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. You can call 801-819-7300, or you can go to theroadhome.org/donate. Give back during these holiday times. And, yeah, there's like, I don't know, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably about 15 tables and stations, everybody doing their best to help out a great cause. Coming up, top of the hour, we got a couple of things brewing. Everything's all coming to fruition here towards the end of the program, James, but I think Lo'Neal, the best the best fullback in the history of the NFL, he's possibly joining us. If not him, Kevin Dana. Again, he does great work. He has his own Warriors show up in the Bay Area, also covers the Santa Cruz Warriors, the G League squad. He'll possibly be joining us. We still have to get to the polls, not only the two that we put up today, but the ones that we put up over the past 10 days. Whole bunch of stuff. More fun in the 40s and the 50s. Plus, we're going to have Spence rolling by. We have a jam-packed final hour right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. The last hour, I can tell the big voice guy that he is wrong. It is not Sean O'Connell. It is his guy, Zakariah. Hold it down right here. ESPN 792.1 FM. We are live at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Street. 529 9th Street, 7300 South. 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. Come on down. Donate, whether it's money, whether it's some blankets that you got laying around, some shoes, some socks, some hoodies, any size. We will get them to the people that need them. And you can always, of course, if you're unable to come on down, you can go online, theroadhome.org/donate, or you can call 801-819-7300. We will have Kevin Dana on later in the show, voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors. We have a bunch of polls to get to. Go to @ESPN700 on Twitter/X, or my handle is @ZakSports, ZAK Sports. Give me a follow and go ahead and vote on the polls. But right now, what better way to end my 10-day stint here in Salt Lake, Zakariah filling in for Sean O'Connell, than to bring on, and this is not arguable, oftentimes when you have opinions in sports, somebody might say, well, what about this guy? What about that guy? Or what about this team? Or what about that year? Or what about this coach? This is indisputable. He is the greatest fullback in the history of the NFL. And I believe there's a campaign that is still going on to get him into the Hall of Fame. He is the one, the only, Lorenzo Neal. Lorenzo, thank you so much for joining me. How are you, sir?
Zachariah, you always are too kind and too sweet. I really appreciate the vote of confidence. Zachariah, you always pretty in the face and slim in the waist. My brother, what's good?
My guy, you and I worked together in the Bay Area. There was that one time you thought you scared me coming around the corner trying to test my fight or flight situation when I was with the young Miss Kimmy or whatever, you know what I mean? Always the jokester, the Low Neal. But how are we doing on this Hall of Fame quest? Are we any closer to that gold jacket?
Hey, I would love to put on that gold jacket. Hopefully it happens one day, but I'm just glad that they're mentioning my name. I think there's a lot of guys, when you think about who's the best running fullback that I think that has an opportunity, that'd be Mike Alstott. If you said who is another great fullback that could catch the ball in the backfield that should be mentioned for the Hall of Fame, that'd be none other than Larry Centers from Arizona Cardinals. You know, when you talk about blocking, pure blocking fullback, I think that, a lot of people say that, that I'm that guy. So I'm just greatly appreciative. There's a lot of guys that should be mentioned. I'm just hopefully that someone gets in because, hey, you got kickers in. I think that a true fullback needs to be in that Hall of Fame, and hopefully one day they turn the page and make that happen.
Yeah, 100%. And look, you're always humble, Lo. I understand that. But when you put all of the phases of what it comes to being a fullback, you are numero uno in my heart and in my mind and in a lot of people's mind as well. All right, Lo, let's talk about I hate to go random, but when I think of you, other than you being an unbelievable fullback and your long history in the NFL, I think about, obviously, what you did with the Titans against the Bills. What was it, the Miracle? Help me out here.
Yeah, the Music City Miracle.
Musical City Miracle, yes.
Yes.
So I want to pick your brain on the new kickoff onside. Obviously, they're trying to lessen concussions, and that's something that you experienced and dealt with, not only you but your teammates, and you've seen the evolution of there being more studies about CTE and all that stuff. But just the rule by itself, it took me a second, but like anything else, you get used to it over time. What do you make of the new kickoff rules, the fact that you have to tell the refs that you're actually doing an onside kick, which man gamble, as I like to call him. Dan Campbell did that crazy with 12 minutes to go, only down 10, did it then. But what do you make of the new rules in terms of the kickoff rules?
Well, you know what? I don't, first I said, God, I don't like it. And now I'm starting to kind of get, you just get used to everything over time. You say, first it's resistance, and then you're like, okay, this is what it is. You can't change it. I think that once people start to figure it out, I think it's going to be tough. If you can land that in that kicking zone, if you get some kick guys going, because now you're going with smaller guys got to be faster guys. You don't have necessarily the walls that guys got to run through. but it's one cut and you can get north and south. I'm kind of surprised that there's not going to be more explosive plays on kickoff return because of the fact you have an opportunity to catch that on the fly and guys are trying to get through tackles. And so I'm surprised that there haven't been more bigger plays on the kickoff return.
Speaking with the greatest fullback to ever strap up a helmet, Lorenzo Neal joins me right now on the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 792.1 FM. Now, I see you on TV, big old TV superstar. I've yet to grace the TV airwaves. I've just been a radio guy. I guess I got a face for it, Low, as they like to tease me about. But I do want to talk about the Niners. I have Matt Mayoko on earlier, and such a conundrum of a team, whether it was the holdout with Ayuk early on. The Trent Williams one didn't bother me as much. I think he's just gotten so far in his career that he just doesn't want to do camp. So I didn't take that too seriously. But you had a Debo holdout the year before. You had the Ayuk holdout this year. Obviously, Purdy's going to have to get paid this upcoming season. Then Ayuk gets hurt, and I think they're below 5%. If not 5%, they're less than 10% to make the playoffs. But what do you do if you are the brass of the 49ers in terms of transitioning into next year?
I tell you, it's simple for me. I think this Niner team has to sit down and really look at, and that's talking about management and coaches, and say, okay, what do we do? You look at Cal Shannon, everyone's saying, what happened to Cal Shannon? What's going on? Guess what happened? You look at the Houston Texans. Guess what? Whose coach was that? Who was the DC? The Niners. When you think about, look at Miami Dolphins. Oh, who's the OC helping Shannon? The Dolphins. Think about the Dolphins coach. All these coaches that have been plucked, even assistant coaches. Think about Wes Walker. All these coaches that's been plucked.
Saleh, Robert
Saleh. It has been a plethora of coaches that's been taken several weeks ago. When you watch them play against, not the Detroit Lions, they're going to play them up weak, but when you think about when they played against the Green Bay Packers, you had 12 men on the field. Coach Shanahan's talking to the officials saying, hey, look, they did this. They didn't give a change to substitute. You shouldn't have called this 12 men. And as he's talking, you had back-to-back 12 men on. It's inexcusable.
Interesting.
The head coach is trying to talk. So now you can't depend on your assistant coaches. So I'm looking at this as, hey, Shanahan needs to get back to the right coaches because right now he's got too much going on. But when you're talking about football players, though, this team can't do what the Dallas Cowboys did. Think about it. Think about this. When you look at NFL and you think about the quarterback position, you say, okay, the quarterback should be the highest paid. I get that. I understand that. But you have to make sure that it fits. Even with receivers, and you look at certain guys, when it came to Ayuk, you say, hey, Ayuk, we love you. You have been an unbelievable receiver. You are a true number one. But if we can only pay you $1 and you want $2 or $1.25, you got to say, we love you. You've been great for this organization, but you have to go. You have to, if you're the 49ers, you have to do this. The 49ers it would behoove them to look and say, do we want to be the Dallas Cowboys? Pay Dak Prescott $62 million just because you paid him doesn't mean it's right. You have to look at this Niner team and say, now, because the Dallas Cowboys paid him, they got a pretty good pass rusher over in Dallas, but guess what? They're not going to be able to pay Micah Parsons. So the 49ers have to say, John Lynch and Cal Shanahan have to sit down and say, look, this guy, whether it's 30, 35 million, whether it's 40 million, we need to say, Purdy, this is what we're going to do, but we're going to guarantee it. We're going to guarantee you a 4-year, $180 million, somewhere that Cousins got, but it's all guaranteed. If you go out and pay this guy 50, 60, 65, 60, you are going to hamstring your team because you're not good enough to win because you have too many other positions that you need to pay and too many holes that you need to fill because you have to realize Purdy, as good as he is, he's not a Mahomes. He's not a Herbert. He's not a Josh Allen. So if you don't, he's not the quarterback from the Cincinnati Bengals. So when you think about what you have, when you're the Niners, you better make a physical responsibility to say, we're not just going to make a guy happy. We have to make sure he fits our system and our program, and most of all, the finances that we're able to have, disposable income.
Man, I miss you, brother, because that's insight. I've asked these questions not only to people that I have brought on the air to interview and people that cover the team, but, friends and fans and stuff like that. And I hadn't really thought, you're the first person to bring up the fact that Shanahan might still be there. Lynch might still be there, but all of the coaches that were around him are not there anymore, and that might be having an effect. And you're also the first person to bring up that, Purdy is good. Obviously, he is the quarterback of the future for the 49ers, but he should not be commanding or getting the top dollar like guys like Patty Mahomes and, Josh Allen and Dak Prescott are getting. Two fantastic points on that. All right, speaking of Patty Mahomes, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Breaking Bad, a very famous television show, but Walter White is the main guy in it, and the guy below him, Jesse, has a scene where he's yelling he can't keep getting away with this. And I bring that up to mention the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and the fact that they are back-to-back champion defenders going for a three-peat, but they are not winning convincingly. And all the numbers that you look at would tell you that they're a mediocre team, but they always find a way to win. Do you see them repeating all of that, and as long as they got Patty, they're going to win, and he's dealing with a high ankle sprain, or do you think it's going to finally catch up with him?
Well, I think I think that they can lose any week. When you watch this team, yes, they found a way to win. Yes, they are still the defending Super Bowl teams, and you have Patrick Mahomes, you have a chance. But this is a team. If you can score 24, I don't know if they can win. It's not a high-power offense. You're inconsistent on offense. Your defense has been carrying you. When you think about the Kansas City Chiefs, even the last 2 years, it's been defense. Offense entertains, but defense wins championships. And think about the Niners when they were playing at their best. It's that defense. So I don't think offensively, I don't think Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs have it this year offensively. I think their defense, if they're going to win a Super Bowl, it's going to come down to that defense. And if you get over 24, you're going to beat this Kansas City Chiefs team. And I think right now, when you think about the Buffalo Bills and how they're playing in the AFC, I think it's a two-horse race. I think it's the Pittsburgh Steelers and friggin' Buffalo Bills. I think those are the two teams that are going to be battling for the Super Bowl, getting in the Super Bowl in AFC.
Now, I know you're a dog, Roof. You and Derek Carr, Fresno State. You obviously had a fantastic college career. What do you make of the 12-team playoff? How do you expect it to go down? The top seeds are getting home games. What do you make of the state of college football as it's becoming more and more, to me, low, and to other people have said it, of course, but becoming more and more like the NFL? What do you make of the state of the college game?
Yeah, it really is. And unfortunately, because of the fact now, I'm really surprised, just kind of as I digress, looking at Belichick going to college. Who would have thought that Belichick would go to college? I don't think he's going to be a great college coach, because not that he couldn't be, it's just the discipline. You got to realize how they college coach players now, that portal and all the different things that surround it. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens with this new portal and how things are going to happen for Belichick. But the college game, you got to realize all these bowl games are now just you win a bowl game, it just elevates you to the next round. So it's interesting just how they have it set up, that these bowl games used to be you win that bowl game and now you get a bowl ring. But now if you win that bowl ring, you're still going to the next round. So I think it's very, very fascinating. But for me, I want to see a West Coast guy. You got West Coast guy. I want to see, can Oregon hold this? What Oregon has been able to do, the Ducks, can they win it all? You saw the way they beat Ohio State. You saw the way that they've been winning games. It's just interesting to see, because they're going to have to beat a couple teams that they've already beat. It's just kind of different when you think about the way it's set up to get to the championship.
I'll get you out of here on this. Shedeur Sanders, obviously the son of Neon, Dion, Primetime. All you kids out there, just know that he played in a Falcons football game and then flew over to play in a World Series game for the Braves. That's how special he was. But his son, what do you make about where he's going to go in the draft? Obviously, Cam Ward out of Miami is going to be up there, probably in the top 5 as well. What do you make of what Neon Dion has done in Colorado and what you think his son can do when he moves to the NFL?
I think it's absolutely amazing what he's been able to do. When you think about what Shedeur has been able to do and what his father's done to this program, they're program builders. He goes to he goes to a small college and says, okay, he's going to go friggin' to a black college and show that, hey, look, I can win and I can recruit. Think about what he did. Those SBU schools, and a lot of kids wouldn't even give them a time of day. Think about the gravitas in the force that Dion possessed. He goes to an SBU school and takes them. Look what he does. He wins there. He goes and then he leaves and goes to Colorado. Think about what Deion's done. He put his own money into that SBL square, build the stadium, helped put up new grass, all the things, food, really made that program unique. It's so crazy, the power of Deion Sanders. And then he goes to Colorado. And in 1 year, everyone's laughing, okay, he won only 4 games. And look at what he's been able to do in 2 years. This guy, to me, is the closest thing to, I'm going to say it, Harbaugh. Think about, Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh. Look at the way they build organizations. Look at Deion. Is this the next Harbaugh that maybe going to come to the league? I'm hearing Shador, maybe the Raiders, maybe even the Dallas Cowboys. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens to this young man in the draft. And
Lorenzo Neal, greatest NFL fullback of all time, 16 years in the league. That'll give you tenure and damn near 2 tenures. Follow him on Twitter or X, whatever you're calling it, at Lorenzo Neal. Lorenzo, you and I were supposed to have a show together. We won't get into the details about why that didn't go down, but I always appreciate you joining me, and I love every time I can bring you to wherever I'm at, Salt Lake City, Utah, Sacramento, Cali, whatever. Appreciate you, Zoe.
Hey, you're the best, man. Much love to you, brother. You do a great job. You should be absolutely a legend. You are absolutely a great radio host. You know the right things to say. Blessings to you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, there you go. Lorenzo Neal, man. That guy is great. That guy is as good as he is on air, James, he is fantastic off. He's a little bit – James, you and I have yet to break bread, so the majority of our time together has been in a professional setting, but yeah, you sat down with me and Zoe, you'd probably be sitting back and laughing your tail off. That guy is a great dude. And, yeah, I mean, the fullback position should be represented in the Hall of Fame, point blank, period. He named other guys, Mike Allstott. I mean, obviously there's other fullbacks. Lo Neal, probably based on my close relationship with him, is why he comes to the forefront of my mind when I think of that position. But why would there not be every position on an NFL team represented in the Hall of Fame? Doesn't make sense to me. You got kickers in there. You got punters in there. If they are a part of the 11 on offense or 11 on defense for any snap, there should be a Hall of Famer represented for every position. Doesn't matter that it's just the fullback. My humble opinion. Anyways.
Yeah, it doesn't help that kind of a fullback is basically extinct now. But for a long time, yeah, super important part of the game, and yeah, why not?
Well, I'll tell you this, James. I'll tell you this, James. Guess who introduced LaDainian Tomlinson when he got put into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Lorenzo Neal. Lo Neal. And you know why? Because while Tomlinson was, doing the layup and obviously tortured Raiders fans for many years being in the AFC West, who was the guy making it, like clearing the path for him to get to the end zone? It was Lo Neal. So to me, it's kind of a shame that, and it's not just fullback, it's any position. There should be long snappers. I don't know if there's a long snapper in the Hall of Fame, but there should be a long snapper in there. All right, coming up next, we got a bunch to do before we do some crosstalk with Spence. We've got polls that we have yet to update. We will update not only the 2 that we put up today, but the ones that we've done throughout the 2 weeks. Again, at ESPN 700, at Zach Sports on Twitter. And then we're going to be joined by Kevin Dana, G League Warriors, Santa Cruz Warriors. Plus, he's got his own show up there in the Bay Area around the Warriors. What does he make of this team? And what was that, 40-plus points, James? I got to look that up in the break. But they got the brakes blown off of them as they've been implementing 15-men rotations. I mean, they've got a little bit of an identity crisis as they're dealing with, hopefully, for Warriors fans, which I'm not one of, by the way. I'm a Suns fan. We have no championships. You can't throw any strays at me. But hopefully not, if you're a Warriors fan, wasting the remaining years of Steph Curry's still playing at a high-level career. Lakers are dealing with that as well with LeBron James, and that's why there's been rumors, mainly just Michael Wilbon, pushing for the Lakers to trade LeBron to the Warriors so that they could team up and try to recreate the magic that they had in the Summer Olympics over the summer of 2024. All right, All of that coming up next in the final half hour of the week right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Is back to get that one off. Harris 3 of 6. Oh, there's a big put down. Wow. By Keontae George. He took it strong down the lane.
Oh, yeah. Keontae George, poster dunk in last night's 126-119 Utah Jazz win over the Pistons in Detroit, courtesy of SEG Media. Craig Bullerjack and Thurl Bailey on the call. If only the Jazz could play the Blazers and the Pistons every night. They'd have a much different record. Not to be Debbie Downer at all. Coming up at about 145, 150, it will be /fun in the 50s because we will be joined by Spence Checketts as he gets you ready for the drive from 2 to 6 as I am here live and in person at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South Midvale, Utah. I'll be here for another 45 minutes or so. If you want to come by and say hi, and most importantly, bring down some coats, some blankets, some shoes, some socks, beanies, whatever. Come down and donate to the less fortunate during these holiday times. And if you're unable to come down in person, I understand. You can always call if you want to help or contribute. I think they're doing Venmo. And all of these donations are getting matched up to $1 million, which is always good news. And our thanks. I'm sorry, not matched, tripled up to $1 million by the Huntsman Family Foundation and the Blueprint Public Affairs. So come on down and give out. But again, if you can't come in person, call 801-819-7300, 801-819-7300, or go online, theroadhome.org/donate. Before we get to our next guest, Kevin Dana, who is a G League Warrior play-by-play. Also, he's got his own show up there in the Bay Area on the Warriors. We'll talk to him about what is similar to the Niners, a very confusing sort of organization and what they do with the pieces that they have. Certainly not down in the dumps, but what do you do? Who do you move? Who do you bring in? How do you maximize whatever you're going to have left of Steph Curry? But we want to get to the polls. We've done 10 of them, or 12, 15, whatever it was. At least one a day, so at least 10 over these past 2 weeks. OC and I both big poll fans because we like to hear from the people. And again, you can always text in 877-353-0700. But the station is at ESPN 700, and I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. I retweeted them, but let's get to these here quickly. The ones that we put up today. What are you more interested in watching this weekend? As I talked about, the NFL doing their best Debo from Friday impersonation. They did it to the NBA last year, absolutely crushing them in the ratings. And now they're trying to do it to their cousin, or whatever you want to call college football, to the NFL. Now, this is more of a college football area here in Salt Lake, so I'm assuming it'll get some love. But let's update that. What are you more interested in watching this weekend? Your options were college football playoff first round. There'll be one game tonight, 3 games tomorrow. Or the NFL, who's got a doubleheader tomorrow, arguably or inarguably the greatest player in the league currently and maybe the best quarterback of all time. I don't know if he's quite come for Brady in Montana, but with 3 titles and being at the age that he's at, Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs certainly knocking on that door. Or other sports. Again, we have other college sports. We have other pro sports, hockey, soccer, all that good stuff, the shooting Utes, the running Utes. Or is it Christmas movies for you? And the results that came in, 80%. Which I wonder how much this is going to bear. Again, James, is this just because it's a college football population? Or is it because it's the playoffs and that most of America will bear out the same? It's not the NFL playoffs. It's the NFL fantasy playoffs this weekend. But still just regular season games for them. But college football playoff first round comes in at 80%. The next highest vote, and that's one of the larger numbers that you'll see, other than maybe OC not having ketchup in his house. But college football first round came in at 80%. NFL Saturday came in at 8%. Other sports came in at 6%. And Christmas movies for me came in at 6%. And then we have, what are you more interested in watching on Christmas? NFL doubleheader got half the votes, 50%. NBA's 5-game slate came in at 11%. Other sports came in at 5%. And Christmas movies was actually in second at 34%. All right, before we get to our next guest, let me just do a couple of these that we did throughout the week. Player or coach who was the most shocking person to make the move from BYU to Utah or vice versa. I want to bring this one up because I was shocked that Jay Hill beat out Kalani Sitake and Kyle Whittingham. Jay Hill got 44%. And then, of course, we have to do the OC poll, as he just texted me. He's going 9-9 out there in Europe. He'll be back on Monday and then again on Thursday. But he sent me a text giving me instructions on how to leave his home as I go back to the Bay Area. I'm sure you'll miss me so much. You can always follow me on Twitter and find out the next time that I'm on air. I guess I won't be this Wednesday, but usually every Wednesday from 1 to 2, the Zakariah Hour. But you can follow every time that I fill in for OC or I come on ESPN 700 at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. The question was, when I was floored and appalled that OC did not have ketchup in his home. OC does not have ketchup in his house. Have you ever met anyone with no ketchup in their house? Your options were yes, I'm also a nut job, and no, I am not a nut job. I was hoping for 100% to 0%. Didn't get it, James, but close enough. 85.1% of you do not know anybody that does not have to go triple negative on you ketchup in their house. 85.1 to 14.9%. Okay, so let's get to our next guest. You can follow him on Twitter at KEVO408. Again, that's Kevo408. He is Kevin Dana. Thank you for joining me, Kevin. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Zakariah. I hate to bring that number up. I don't have ketchup in my house. So
my God, Kevin.
Yeah. I know I might have ruined the poll there, but I'm not a big – I like ketchup. I just don't buy it for myself.
Okay, Kevin. Well, we're getting off on the wrong foot because look, you go to any restaurant, they have ketchup on the table. Now, he didn't have A1 sauce or ranch, which I still find to be a little disturbing, but I can at least understand that. I draw the line at ketchup, though. Every house needs to have ketchup, Kevin.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. Now, talk to me about the G League. I think it was a genius marketing ploy to turn it into, obviously sponsored by Gatorade, but turning it in, instead of the D League, which most people associate with a bad grade, turning it into the G League. And just talk to me about, obviously the Santa Cruz Warriors better than anybody in terms of how that's developed, but talk to me about how that is sort of the pipeline for the NBA where players can go down, most notably probably Bronny James for the Lakers. Yep. But, baseball has AAA, AA, and single A. Football has college football, and basketball has the G League. So talk to me just about the league in general and how it's kind of come to be over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it's really grown in my eyes. I started with Santa Cruz. Our first year was 2012-13, so this is year 13 for me. Back then, there were 16 teams. It was like half of the NBA had a G League affiliate. Now everybody has a G League affiliate. I'm actually at the G League Showcase right now in Orlando. You mentioned Bronny James. He was playing here yesterday for the South Bay Lakers. I think he had like 15, 16 points, something like that. He's been playing better as of late, or he's been scoring more as of late, I should say. But, I mean, this thing has really grown. Every team has an affiliate. There's even a team from Mexico City because they're kind of testing out the market to see if they could put an NBA team in Mexico City. I'm actually watching their game right now as I speak to you, Zakariah. It has really grown. You have the G League Ignite experiment for 4 years, which got a lot of players drafted. And teams are really starting to use this more and more as their farm system. NBA teams sending guys down to the G League to get game reps against legitimate competition. A lot of former NBA players play here trying to get back up to the NBA. So it's a really talented league, and it's been a lot of fun to watch grow.
Kevin Dana joining me right now on ESPN 700, the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. Talk to me a little bit about the major leagues, if you will, for the Golden State Warriors, the actual Golden State Warriors team. Kevin, I can't remember in all my time doing broadcasting, a lot of it in the Bay Area, looking at a team that's more perplexing in terms of, Kerr's got like a 15-man rotation, and he's trying out different rotations and all these things. I mean, ultimately trying to maximize whatever years they have left of Steph Curry playing at such a high level that he is. What do you make of this team and Steve Kerr and the organization trying to find an identity?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a rough patch, so there's no doubt about that. Now, I didn't watch the game last night. I read they lost by 51 to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yes. Yeah,
so,
good for you for not watching. It was like a slow car accident, Kevin.
No bueno there for Golden State. I mean, they got off to such a great start. DeAnthony Melton gets injured and does kind of throw things into flux because he was going to be the starting shooting guard for Golden State, and that he only was able to play 6 games. Now, there's a lot more going wrong with Golden State. Can't just pin it on one injury. They make a lot of bad decisions offensively with respect to turnovers, throwing the ball all over the court. That kind of compromises their transition defense. Steph has been really, really good this year, and I think it was a good trade to bring Dennis Schroeder in. I couldn't tell you how he played yesterday, again, because I didn't watch the game, but I think long-term, or at least for the next couple of months, going into the trade deadline, that's a move they need to make to get a secondary ball handler. And Dennis Schroeder was playing really well for a bad-ish Brooklyn Nets team that now seems to be going more into the let's tank for Cooper Flag kind of deal there. But it was a move they needed to make, and they've got off to the great start. They lost 10 of 12. Luckily, they built up some wins before then, but those losses to Brooklyn and San Antonio, where they had 17 and 18-point leads late in the second half, those games kind of coming back to haunt them right now because 16 and 11, if they win those 2 games, sounds a lot better than 14 and 13, and maybe the sky isn't falling as much. It's still falling right now, don't get me wrong, but the fans are pretty concerned in the Bay Area.
Yeah, no, and certainly those are games that you look back on and you can't. It's a long season, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But I hear you. All right, I got to get you out of here on this because I'm out here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and this is what get the clicks. LeBron James and a guy whose basketball opinion I respect deeply, and Michael Wilbon. He's been pushing this LeBron James getting traded to the Warriors. I don't know how much of that has to do with these past Summer Olympics and when they were able to get gold with big-time wins and them playing together and, Durant, LeBron, and Curry, which makes me feel old with them being the old heads. But what do you think the Warriors are going to be active at the trade deadline? Is there any chance in hell LeBron could be in a Warriors uniform?
I do think they will be active as they continue to kind of look for, another big piece. I would be shocked if it's LeBron James. I know there was reporting that they were going to they were trying to make a play for LeBron at last year's trade deadline. Kind of took everyone by surprise. I mean, I have a hashtag witness T-shirt somewhere in my apartment. I am a LeBron stan.
Okay.
I used to call him Le God as a kid growing up.
Okay.
I'm a big LeBron guy. I would be shocked to see if it would happen. I think LeBron's pretty happy in L.A. He's got his son there, and I think he'd probably veto any trade. But, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's not like the Lakers are ripping the cover off the league either.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it might work out for both teams if LeBron and Steph team up and the Lakers can get some assets to put around Anthony Davis. It might be the way to go because LeBron's been talking about retirement. But anyways, Kevin, really appreciate your time. Follow Kevin on Twitter at KEVO408. Enjoy the showcase, and thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, Zakariah. My pleasure.
There you go, Kevin Dana. Good stuff from him. Yeah, you could hear it in the background. And Bronny, you know what? I detailed a little bit on this program. Good for him. He had his first 30-point game. I don't necessarily see it. Well, certainly he's not going to be anything close to his dad. Not a lot of people can be when your dad is LeBron or your dad is Jordan or Scottie Pippen or any of the other sons of NBA greats. It's tough to replicate, obviously, what they did. But, we'll see. I'm rooting for him, I'll tell you that, because that's not an enviable position to be in. All right, coming up, final segment of the program. That'll do it for me, not only for today, but for this week. We will check in with Spence Checketts, the one, the only, for the drive. Obviously going to take you from 2 to 6, and I'll remind you of all the different ways that you can come down and help. Lots of people, lots of more people here. James, I guess maybe because it's Friday, maybe some people took off work, but there's a lot of people coming down. I see a lot of vans and trucks and cars that are helping out the less fortunate. I've given you all the ways that you can help. If you can't come in person, and I'm at 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. If you can't come down in person and say hello to me and get a free Coca-Cola or a bottle of water or cookies, cake, every sweet that you can come up with, some chips. If you can't come on down to 529 9th Ave, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah, you can always call. So I'll give you a second. If you're driving, don't pick up your phone, but just try to memorize it. 801-819-7300. If you're in an office building, jot it down. 801-819-7300. Anything will help. Any shoes, any socks, any gloves, any shoes, any socks, any gloves, any jackets, any blankets, all that stuff. And, of course, if you contribute anything, it'll be tripled. Tripled. You give $5, $15 will be given to the needy by the Huntsman Family Foundation and the Blueprint Public Affairs. So whatever you got, whatever you can spare, do that, especially in this time during the holidays. Coming up, we will check in with Spence Checketts, see what's coming up on the drive as we get you into your weekend, your holiday weekend. All of that coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Well, the big voice guy is not totally wrong. You will be listening to the Spence Checketts show here in just a few minutes. Last segment of the Sean O'Connell show. This guy Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 792.1 FM. Again, give me a follow. I just say for you to do that shamelessly because I want more followers. I will admit that I'm shallow, but also so that you can see when I will be back on these airwaves. It'll not be the Zakariah Hour this upcoming Wednesday as we are approaching Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and we'll check in with Spence Checketts and what he's got going on for the drive to take you to your weekend. As he likes to say every Friday, you made it. And this isn't a special you made it because it's not only Friday and your weekend's getting started, college football playoff. As the NFL tries to beat Debo, you got a doubleheader tomorrow for the NFL, and plus Christmas is coming up. You probably got in-laws and family members and friends and all that stuff all coming up. So we'll do that in a second. But right now, as we do every time of the day for this show, we do topical trivia. And if you want to win some free food, delicious food, Lemon Shark Poke gift cards, and 2 tickets, if you like music, to go see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. They're coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on 8/27 of next year. All you got to do is answer this question. I'll give you a second because I'm going to give you the number if you don't already have it programmed into your phone. Take your phone out, assuming you're not driving or crossing the street. 877-353-0700. One more time, 877-353-0700. I interviewed what should be a Hall of Fame fullback, 16, 17-year vet, Lorenzo Neal, earlier in the program. When I said that he was the greatest fullback of all time, who, in his humble way, did he first mention as another fullback that he thinks could be in the conversation to be as good as him or even better than him, but also certainly in the Hall of Fame? Who did Lorenzo Neal first name, another fullback, when I said that he was the greatest one to ever play in the NFL? Text that into 877-353-0700, and you will win those prizes right now. It's a pleasure to be joined by Spence Checketts. Spence, I want to start with this. First of all, you had me cracking up on the ride home. I don't want to say this too loud, but Spence was out here. He was checking other radio hosts. Checked them not once but twice. A little something like they like to hear themselves more to go through. And I could hear them, by the way, through your microphone. But there's a lot more people here today than there were yesterday, which is always a fantastic cause that we have going on down here.
Well, the good news is we're not set up right next to the station who doesn't get great ratings, so they want to steal our ratings. I've been set up next to them in the past.
Oh, so that's their trick, to go through your microphone.
Yes.
Got it.
But yes, it's whenever you're at a radiothon, either here or elsewhere, I always get a kick out of, like, come on, we're all doing this together. Everybody chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mike Allstott, was that okay?
You just gave it away, but that's fine.
Somebody already guessed it. I was scratching my head because Allstott was on the cover of Madden one year.
Yes,
I remember that. But
the
yes, yesterday trying to get everything done, I'm looking left and right. I'm like, dude, just.
Well, you have a much more soothing voice, and especially like with what we do. I'm energetic. I try to calm it down as much as I can. But for other genres of radio, if you will, it's they got to be like the zoo, the buzz, like it's kind of hard to hold it against it. And I've been complaining because I've been trying not to look over there. I don't know if you're watching your weight or whatever, Spence. You're in good shape, but they are trying to get me to not be able to fit into my plane seat when I leave today. There are cookies, there are brownies, there are cakes, there are desserts I've never even seen before, Spence.
I'll tell you this, man. I don't know about you, but when the weather gets cold, I want to eat and sleep. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
So I try to behave myself during the day.
Yeah.
And then when I get home at night, I'm like, okay, you did it. And it's on until like 10:30.
All bets are off.
Watching Thursday Night Football last night and just smashing everything I had in the house. So it looks like the setup here is a little better than it was yesterday.
Oh, yeah, and there's like 3 times the people. I mean, yesterday there was probably like 15. Now I'm looking at like 50, I think.
Yeah, we had Cobb salads yesterday, and now we have double fudge brownies.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So you taking off today, huh?
Yes.
Right.
I'm flying back. I'm humbly flying in coach. Hopefully I get an aisle seat or something. I finally, it took me, well, I don't know how long I've been flying, but I'm 41 years old. I finally, Spence, now, I set the alarm. I set 3 alarms like 30 minutes before, 15 minutes before, and 5 minutes before to check in the second, because you can check in 24 hours before.
Yeah.
So I'm like A15. So I'm hoping for a smooth flight.
Are you a get to the airport aggressively early guy? Oh, you're one of those guys. You want to get there and run to the
guy
gate.
That everybody looks at.
See, I think I was raised that way. Oldest of 6 kids. We're home alone family.
Oh, I blame my parents too.
Yeah, we're home alone family rushing to the gate. So because of that, I get there aggressively early. Give me a Sky Club. I'll get some food. I'll put my feet up and I'll wait.
Yeah.
So now I get there like 2 hours early.
Yeah.
But I didn't as a kid, and we actually missed flights growing up. So
what do you got coming up? Always an entertaining 4 hours. I know you always have a great guest list. I do. Before you tell me what's coming up, and you can answer it both at the same time. In our business, we're not supposed to ask two-part questions. But before you tell me what's coming up, I do want to pick your brain. The NFL, I've been comparing the NFL to Debo from Friday all show long. I get it when they went after the NBA, and they dominated them last year on Christmas because that was usually reserved for the NBA. But now they're trying to take the NCAA's chain. Spence?
Yeah.
Are you surprised by that?
No, they could play it Tuesday at 3 a.m., and we'd figure out a way to watch.
That's true.
I mean, that's how powerful it's become. Yeah. And, you know, Michael Lewis, the writer, he has this podcast called, I think it's No Lies.
Did he write Moneyball?
He did, and a bunch of other books.
Yeah.
But his podcast is really good. And he just did, I heard him on Scott Galloway's pod like 2 weeks ago. I love Galloway. And so he just did a pod on sports gambling. Michael Lewis did. And the data about standalone games and how much money those games are bringing in is pretty stunning. So what you have on Saturday is 2 standalones, right?
Okay.
So instead of tucking these Saturday games into the Sunday busy morning window and busy afternoon windows, the NFL's ethos now is as many standalone games as we can get. That brings in more revenue. So that's why you get 2 on Monday night. That's why you get the Thursday night game. And now that's why they're going over to standalone games on Saturday and also allowing them on different networks. So if you want to bet Texans-Chiefs tomorrow, if you pull up your FanDuel account or whatever, you want to bet Texans-Chiefs, you're going to be locked in on that game. Or if you want to bet Steelers-Ravens, you know, you can actually do both and DVR one and get a little tricky with the way you watch it. And then you watch like 5 hours of live football.
Got it.
And during that entire time, you're looking at your FanDuel lineup, you're getting the dopamine hit.
Team,
I'm telling you, man, this is a like sneaky societal issue.
Debo.
Sports gambling right now,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, it's like opioid crisis without me being able to look at you and saying you're on crack.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing, but the NFL is capitalizing. According to Michael Lewis, 65% of college males have a account in good standing with either DraftKings or FanDuel. 65%. When we were in college, it was 0. Yes, it was 0.
You always had one buddy who had an offshore
account. Or had a bookie. He'd show up and his arm was in a cast. And it's like, what's your deal, dude?
Or to go even further back, I know you're like barely older than me, but there used to be a guy who would run the whole thing.
For sure.
So he would have the lines on a piece of paper. You'd fill it out. You'd give it to him, and he was the bookie of the whole school.
So Michael's assertion, and I would encourage people to listen to his pod after you after you listen to our show, is right now what's driving every NFL decision is gambling revenue. And the NFL has been able to capitalize on gambling in a way the other leagues have never been able to before it was legalized. Because before it was legalized, what did we all do? We play fantasy football. And even if there's a milkshake on the line, technically you're gambling. And I run a couple leagues. There's a small little buy-in, and you know, no harm, no foul, but ultimately still you're watching NFL games with the dopamine hit like, oh, I've got Debo. If he scores a touchdown, I get an extra 6 points. Maybe I make it to the finals. So I'm not surprised because 2 standalone Saturday games and their revenue stream via the gambling apps goes through the roof.
I can't wait to see what the ratings are like with 3, because these are playoff games.
They'll be awesome.
It's regular season games for the NFL. It's playoff games for college, and college has taken over as the number 2 sport behind the NFL and ahead of the NBA. Anyways, I'll be listening on my ride home. Unfortunately, you told me about some traffic I might hit, but
be
what
careful,
else is coming up while I'm making my commute?
I'm glad I got here on time. So we're going to do a lot of college football. Utah locked in a really good running back today. We're going to bring in Kevin Reynolds from the Salt Lake Tribune right off the top. Howard Beck, one of my favorite NBA writers from The Ringer, spent a lot of years with the New York Times, LA Times. He's going to join us. Blaine Fowler from BYU TV, who played quarterback at BYU. We're going to preview BYU Colorado coming up tomorrow. Tony Jones for a little more NBA, then Chris Comrani, our Friday staple, for just a grip of local and national college football.
Awesome. Keep it locked, 2 to 6, as you always do, but make sure you do it. It's the last time before, well, no, you'll hear from him on Monday. But Christmas is coming up. Get your weekend started off the right way with Spence Checketts. Thank you so much, Spence, all your hospitality, being just a solid dude, as we talked about in this industry. It's a lot more rare than listeners would probably know, but you've been great. Everybody's been great.
No, I appreciate your contributions, man. I'm glad to have you a part of our family.
Absolutely, and it's been a pleasure. Broadway Media, ESPN 700. Won't be the last time that you'll hear from me. Be sure to follow me so I can tell you the next time that I'm on. We'll be doing the Zakariah Hour 1 to 2 every Wednesday as we blow up Spence Checketts' clock. I try not to do it today. 8 minutes over?
Oh, we're good.
We're
we're good. We're good, man.
But we're good
Holiday
to go.
season.
Anyways, that will do it for me. OC will be back on Monday. You've been listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah has been holding it down for the past couple of weeks. It's been my pleasure. Sayonara, Salt Lake. I'll see you the next time right here, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.